Yes, here we go. And a very good morning to you, Grenada, and the rest of the world. The 4th day of August. Yes, sirree, 4th day of August, 2019. I'm George Grant, saying good morning and welcome to today's edition of Sundays with George Grant. So happy to see you folks. Nice of you to join us. Promise you we're not going to disappoint you this morning, huh? The race has already begun. I see that the winner this morning is none other than Mr. Chester Simon out there in Zurich, Switzerland. Good to see you, Chess. Thank you very much for joining us. And Peter Bishop is there as well. But Chester beat him by a nose. Peter is in sunny Long Island. Peter, let me tell you, boy, you think you guys are sunny? You think you're so hot? Let me tell you, we have got one gorgeous morning here in Grenada this morning. Oy, 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 oy. And I'll tell you, not that I had any plans to go to the beach, but if I was going to go to the beach today, I'd call it off because it is going to be crowded. There are a lot of people on this island. And guess what? You ain't seen nothing yet because there are a lot more coming. I understand JetBlue this past week, they added an additional flight. And up to yesterday afternoon, just walking the streets of St. George, this place is teeming, and I mean teeming with people this morning and this week. Looks like it's going to be a busy couple of weeks here in the Spice Isle. I do hope that everybody is going to be on their best behavior, huh? Yeah. Because it's our major annual showcase, if you will. So, have a good time, but please, within limits, within limits. Don't want to walk away with anybody having a bad reputation or leaving the country with a bad reputation. Actually, last night somebody sent me a video of an incident which occurred at the international airport sometime yesterday. Apparently, there was a couple just about to board a flight to depart the island. And apparently, immigration people decided they were not going to let the gentleman board the aircraft. So, what does his wife do? She strips naked, starts running up and down the departure lounge. Yeah. Fortunately, security and the Royal Grenada Police Force, they took care of that incident. There's a lot of debate going on there as to, whether or not the lady was probably mentally ill to do something like that. I don't know. But sad incident which happened yesterday afternoon. So let's not see any more of that over the coming week. Bet many of you are already looking forward to tomorrow. I know that I am. And I told you this on Friday, that there is not, I repeat, there will not be an edition of Good Day Grenada tomorrow morning. I have decided to treat myself to a little extra sleep. So tomorrow morning, yeah, Georgie Porgy is going to sleep in tomorrow morning. And you know what? I also intend to do the same thing next weekend, Monday and Tuesday. I just need some time off, okay? So while you guys are out there partying up a storm, I'm going to try to get caught up on a little much-needed rest. Okay, before I get into the whoosh, look at these folks. Before I get into the rundown, let's take a look and say good morning to some of the people out there on social media. Reese Francis, good morning, Reese Francis. Anthea Rollo is there saying good morning, everybody. Esther Morgan is also doing likewise. Chance Julian and Margaret Francis. Hi, Margaret. Margaret, is Reese your relative? I don't know. Oswin Lewis is saying good morning, and she's watching from Newark, New Jersey, I would imagine, where she says it's very sunny this morning. Hey, Margaret is saying 2 good mornings to you this morning. What have you guys done to deserve 2 good mornings from Margaret this morning? And she's wishing you all a happy Sunday as well. Ryan Jabon is saying good morning. Let's pray for the people of El Paso, Texas and Dayton, Ohio in terrorist shootings. Well, I join you in your prayers for the people of El Paso, and this is news to me. I'm not aware of the one that happened in Dayton, Ohio, Ryan, but when I get off the air this morning, I'm certainly going to check that out. Yes, I did hear about that very unfortunate incident, and up to the time I hit the sack last night, I think 20 people had lost their lives. What is this world coming to? Huh? Kind of scary. I mean, you leave home innocently, go do some shopping or whatever. You're not sure you're going to make it back. God help us, I pray that never happens here in Grenada. Please pray. Let's see, who else is here? Ryan says sleep is good. Catherine, hello, Catherine. Oh boy, she says, morning, Gigi and fans. Gigi, you look 20 years younger to me today. What's going on? I shaved. Maybe? I don't know. Thank you very much, Catherine. By the way, we missed you on Thursday's edition of McWe Chat. I think you better have a serious talk with your computer. Make sure it's back on track for Thursday night. Thursday night, folks, every Thursday, 8 to 10. A bunch of us get together here, St. Vincent, Dominica, St. Kitts, New York, London, everywhere. You never know where people are going to be popping up from, but we get together for this program called McWe Chat. If you haven't seen it yet, make sure you do. And by the way, you can go to the GrenadaBroadcast.com website, where all of our programs are archived, and you can watch them at your leisure. Now, so who else is there this morning? Who else is there? Ryan is referring to what happened in El Paso and Ohio. Overnight supremacists. Yeah, boy. Sad, Ryan. Margaret says, yep, 9 killed in Dayton and multiple injured. Oh my God. 29 innocent lives. Just like that. Snuffed out. Just like that. God, thank you for blessing us here in Grenada. Thank you. Ernesto says, good morning, Principal G. How was your week? My week was great, Ernesto. Lots in the news to talk about. And he's also saying good morning to the pilgrims and asking you to share the live. Anthony DeRiggs is now saying 10 people killed in Dayton, Ohio, including the killer. Yeah, well, just as bad. Whether you included the killer or not, it's just very unfortunate. Anyway, Carla Ray Briggs is saying good morning. We need to call on God to keep us sane and safe. Carla, I do that virtually every day, girl. Please join me, and the rest of you as well. Nixon Mitchell is saying good afternoon, America. America, Texas. Sad news. Oh, Texas, I guess he means. Yeah, sad news. It is, in fact, Nixon. John is saying good morning from Carriacou. Danley Alexis. Well, hello there, Mr. Alexis. Good morning. I haven't seen you in eons, but good to see you anyway. Kipling Francis sending his blessings to you folks and asking that you share the broadcast. John says, and they still won't change the gun laws. Yeah, they still won't change the gun laws. John, valid point. Changing the gun laws is not the only solution. The media. Yes, me, I, George Grant, in the media. I'm saying the media also needs to smarten up. Yeah. You know, you look at television, virtually everything is so violent out there. Why? Why? If it's not violence, it's crime in whatever shape or form. And there are people who still argue, oh, they don't think the media has any effect. Horse feathers. Horse feathers. Why do you think advertisers spend billions of dollars every year advertising? Because they want to influence people. But yet, the brains that be, they can't see that. Nah. Oh well. Okay. Who else is there? Arthur Langine is saying good morning to you folks. Fitzroy Adams is saying good morning. Okay, I think that's about it. Oi, 12 and a half minutes after the hour. Let's get right into today's rundown. Here's what we're going to get into over the next 2 hours, 45 minutes or so. As always, we begin with a reading from the Holy Scriptures. Then, Little Angel chimes in this morning. Let's look forward to that. Editorials 2. The Grenada Advocate is captioned, "The Vagaries of the Game." It's talking about cricket, yeah? And the way in which England won the World Cup a few days ago. The New Today is captioned, $250,000 payment for the elite squad. Interesting editorial, interesting. Those are going to be coming your way right after this morning's edition of The Buzz. As far as interviews are concerned, this morning I'm going to run a program, I should say rerun, because I actually ran it one day this week. I couldn't wait to get this out to you folks. Many of you remember Alister Hughes, very well-known journalist here in Grenada, elderly man, and a good friend. And Alister's wife, Margaret, has put together his memoirs into a book called Alister Hughes, Eyewitness to History. I'm going to run that by you this morning for those of you who may have missed it during the week. Okay? All right. Then, I have to tell you, I went up to the General Hospital, I think it was on maybe Wednesday of this week, I'm not sure. I think it was Wednesday of this week, this past week. And as I was leaving, walking out the gap there to the hospital to go on down to the bus terminal, I ran into a gentleman. Actually, he called out to me. "Hey, Mr. Grant." "Yes, sir." "I want to talk to you." Okay. So I went over to talk with the guy. Now, I don't know this gentleman. I do not, up to now, I do not know his name. Okay. I said, "What do you want to talk about?" So I want to talk to you about the situation in Grenada. Things not nice in this place. Not nice. Really, really bad. And I have something to say. I said, "Oh, okay." He says, I want to set up an appointment with you so that you could interview me. I said, oh? Yeah. The people have to know what's going on in this country. I said, sure. I'm always open-eared. And he said to me, it's serious, so we got to do this soon. I said, okay, well, I'll tell you what. How about right now? Oh, sure. Let's talk. So I had my mobile with me. I didn't have my little pocket, but I did have my mobile with me. So I pulled out my mobile. And I said, okay, sir, shoot. Pilgrims. This man, what's the past tense of bung? Bunged? This man bunged away. He took off. Some of what he said may be a little bit difficult for some of you to listen to. But as I listened to this gentleman, he spoke for about 3 minutes or so. That's it. I realized, hey, this man is echoing a lot of the sentiments that I hear as I walk the streets of this place. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to show that to Grenada on Sunday morning. George has an open door policy. I don't have to repeat that, but you guys have known that for a long time. And I believe that everybody needs to be heard. Yeah? So this morning, you're going to hear a little of the plain talk that's on the street out there. All right? So that's it for our interviews. This wasn't an interview. Actually, you're probably not going to hear me say anything in that piece. Just this guy bunging away. He took off. Our main feature this morning, yes. You've noticed on Facebook that I have captioned it, Grenada may be about to turn the corner. Yeah. What is Georgie Porgy talking about? My friends, I haven't seen this lady since, I think it was before the last election. Franka Bernardine. She's a former senator of the National Democratic Congress and also a former minister. Yeah. Franka is coming in and she's going to be spending some time sitting in that chair with me this morning. She's going to be in here at about 10:30, an hour and 10 minutes or so from now. I hope you'll be able to listen to the entire segment. If by any chance something pops up and you're not able to, go on back to Facebook right after noon today. And failing that, later on this afternoon, also on YouTube. Hear what Franka has to say. You may be in for a surprise or two. The caption this morning, again, Grenada may be about to turn the corner. Are your ears perked up? Should be. Let me get back here now to Facebook. See, Fitzroy. Ryan Jabon says, violence sells media time, GG. Yeah, Ryan, that's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. And that's maybe one of the reasons why I'm not doing as well as I could. But you know what? If I have to go broke doing what I do, I'm going to keep on doing it. Because I do know that there are better days ahead. Dennis Charles is saying good morning. Good to see you, Dennis. Chester says, every time you turn on your TV is negative news. Lord help us. Absolutely, Chess, absolutely. That's why I don't watch TV. You know, I have this great big widescreen television set, and I spend precious little time. May pass by the bedroom there, flick it on for a few minutes. That's how I found out about the El Paso shooting. Flick it on for a few minutes, and then go, wow, is this what I came in here for? Sad, sad. Nixon Mitchell says, George Grant, great news on the YouTube show. I guess you mean the fact that we are available on YouTube? Yeah, we are there. We have been for some time. Claude Pudna, hello, Claude. He says, it's a glorious day. Let's give thanks. I join you, Claude, in giving thanks. Yeah. And just having the breath of life. Oh, man. Somebody recognizes. Thank you, Claude. Chris Davies is out there in the northern part of the island. She says, it's a glorious day. Yeah. See, we're all rejoicing down here, man. We got a heck of a day on our hands. But watch out, because when we get into the buzz, you're going to hear me talk about some weather that's headed our way. Oh, okay. Who else? Ernesto says, when you have the tobacco and the firearms being donating monies to the politicians, it doesn't matter how many killing by guns, things will never change because of corrupted politicians in the driver's seat. Ryan says, your programming is unique compared to others in Grenada. Thanks, Ryan. Yoli so, Yali or Yoli? Yali Yoli, Yali Yoli. Why did my mom give me that name? Yali Yoli, Yali Yoli. And Sharon Roberts is saying good morning to you folks. Hello there, Sharon. Looking forward to Wednesday. Sharon comes in here every Wednesday morning at about 9:30, and boy, we have a hoot. Okay, so that's it there on Facebook for the time being. And yeah, let's 23 minutes after the hour. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and dive right into this week's edition of The Buzz.
You don't know how many hurricanes will be coming this season, so you need to be prepared. At Hubbard's Hardware and Building Supply Departments and Food Fair Supermarkets, everything from canned foods, flashlights and batteries, to plywood, tarpaulin, lanterns, roof repair kits, water tanks, etc. are available. For over 90 years, we've helped you prepare for and recover from storms. Hubbard's Hardware, Food Fair Supermarkets, and the Grenadian General Insurance, an integral part of your hurricane preparedness plan.
GRENADA Community Partnership Initiative, supporting health.
To the individuals who will be using these vehicles to serve the people, please ensure while we are using these tools that we use these tools in a manner that we will all be proud of. To GRENADA, a long-standing partner with us, a true testament of what can happen when private and public sector work together for the benefit of the people.
GRENADA, energizing our community.
Studying too hard about back-to-school expenses? Coop Bank is making back to school as easy as 1, 2, 3. Enjoy competitive interest rates, affordable monthly payments, speedy decisions on applications. Come in and apply today.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
All right, folks. Sharon, you and I are obviously in sync. As I sat here watching the commercials, I said, oh my gosh, I went through the first segment of the program and I did not remember to extend my condolences to Margaret. And I see here, Sharon Roberts says, extending deepest sympathy to Margaret. You and your family are in my prayers. May your Heavenly Father give you strength. Much love. Folks, for those of you who don't know Margaret, how could you not know Margaret? How could you? Margaret joins us pretty much every program that we do. In fact, this lady is largely responsible for the success we've had with the programs we do. Not just this one, Sundays with George Grant, but also the program that we do every weekday morning. Margaret's on with us virtually every day unless something comes up and she has to excuse herself. And by the way, when she's not showing up, she calls before the program, say, George, I'm not gonna be with you this morning, okay? Well, Margaret is our dear friend, and she's also one of the integral parts of Make We Chat, which is aired on Thursday evenings. Margaret has just lost a dear brother. Yeah. He passed away yesterday, I think it was. A victim to pancreatic cancer. And I'll tell you, something that has stuck with me is that on Wednesday, the same day I shot the piece, which I'm going to show you in a few minutes, with that gentleman. I mentioned I was coming from the hospital. It was Margaret's brother. I had gone to the hospital to visit, try to stay away from that place. Yeah. At his bedside, he said to me, I said to him, what would you like me to tell Margaret for you? Because Margaret was here the week before she went back to the States last Sunday. And I said, what would you like me to tell Margaret for you? He said, tell her I love her. Hit me in the heart real big, real hard. Yeah, Max, I know you mourn the loss. I know how much you cared for your brother. And this must hurt. But my friend, this too shall pass. Back here, Yvonne Joseph is saying, good morning, Mr. Yvonne, my name is George. Good morning, Mr. Grant. I'm watching and listening. God bless you as you continue doing the good work. Well, thank you very much for your encouragement, Yvonne. I do appreciate it. And Lydia James is also saying, condolences to you, Margaret, and family. May God give you strength. May he rest in peace. Chester Simon is also chiming in here. Margaret, see how much you're loved, girl? See how much? Chester says, Margaret, my condolences to you and your family. Stay strong. Yeah. Easier said than done. But Chester, I have known Margaret now for a lot of years. And she is one tough cookie. You know, always ready to come. You have an issue? Talk to Margaret. She has the time to listen, despite her busy schedule, and she's always willing to help other people. And I think that's the reason why you're seeing the sort of outpouring that you're seeing. Yali, Yali, Yoli. Yali is saying condolences to you, Margaret. Peter Bishop says, my deepest sympathy to Margaret on your loss. May he rest in peace. Mickaman Alexander is chiming in and saying that he's viewing. And have a great day. Okay, folks. All right. Now, where were we? It's 9:30. Where the heck were we? We've done that. Yeah, I know. I don't know where we were, but I now know where we are. Listen to this. I got this from the meteorological office down at the Maurice Bishop International Airport a short while ago. Here's what it says. A westward moving tropical wave is located about 300 miles east of the central Lesser Antilles and continues to produce an area of cloudiness and thunderstorms. Environmental conditions are forecast to become less conducive during the next couple of days, and significant development of this system is not anticipated. The system has a low chance, only 10%, of becoming a tropical cyclone within the next 48 hours. The Met Office continues to monitor this tropical wave since it is expected to bring some showers within 24 hours. So, going to the beach, go now and get your butt back home, okay? That's one of two notes I had to pass on to you. The other one is about a poster exhibit. I received a note just before going on the air here this morning that the Helen Louise Langdon Norton Little poster exhibit. This lady, by the way, Helen Louise Langdon Norton Little, 5 names, was the mother of Malcolm X. This exhibit is going to be held at the Holy Innocents School today and tomorrow, each day starting at 10 a.m. and going until 6 in the evening. And they're encouraging you and your friends and family to go visit and take a look. All right? Now, let's get into today's edition of The Buzz. We begin with a reading from the first book of Timothy, chapter 6, verses 6 to 12. But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into the world, and we can take nothing out of it. But if we have food and clothing, we will be content with that. Those who want to get rich fall into temptation and the trap, and into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Some people, eager for money, have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. But you, man of God, flee from all of this and pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, endurance, and gentleness. Fight the good fight of faith. Take a hold of the eternal life to which you were called when you made your good confession in the presence of many witnesses. Powerful stuff, powerful stuff. Check it out yourself. You can go to the first book of Timothy, chapter 6, verses 6 to 12. Yvonne Joseph shares my condolences to Margaret and her family on the passing of her brother, and God is with you at this time. Yeah. And Thomas says, amen, amen. Folks, here comes Little Angel. Little Angel's piece this morning is captioned, "The Decision of One Man." And by the way, I'm quoting here, "This is a decision that I made. No one else must get licks for this. If there are any licks, it must be on the back of the Prime Minister, not the police commissioner." Unquote. The Grenadian Prime Minister may not have been fully conscious of what he was saying when he made this statement to the nation last week, and may have been unaware of the implications of his choice. The decision to retain security officers on a job beyond the specified limit for accumulated leave, in this case, was against the law. It disregarded the need and purpose for regulations and demonstrated a lack of respect, understanding, and appreciation for the rule of law. The decision was not only wrong, but insensitive, because it implied that these police officers were not entitled to needs and rights as human beings. Instead, the needs and rights of one man had to be met at all costs, with a number of individuals foregoing vacation leave and the limited financial resources of the country being used to pay them huge sums of money as a result. The Prime Minister also challenged himself and the nation when he indicated that if anyone has to get licks for this, if any, it must be on the back of the Prime Minister and not on the police commissioner. Will the Right Honorable Prime Minister accept licks for this or any other wrongdoing? And if ever, will these licks be initiated by Grenadians? Disrespecting the commissioner and eroding his authority is also wrong. Reaction to the Prime Minister's decision by the officers concerned is unknown, and it will be interesting to know whether or not they are aware of their rights to vacation leave and how well they understand that the decision to retain them beyond an acceptable number of days can adversely affect their health and well-being. It may be worth reminding them that money cannot buy health. This latest talk, like so many others in the past, continues to demonstrate how much the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique are in need of help, and how much the state is lacking in good governance. Signed, Little Angel. All right, pilgrims. Back here, thanks, Little Angel. Back here now. Margaret is responding to you folks. Margaret says, "Thank you guys for your kind sentiments. We all hang in. We're all hanging in and consoled by the fact that it was swift and painless. This too shall pass, and joy will come in the morning. Thanks again, says Margaret. See what a lady she is? Okie doke, okie doke, okie doke, okie doke. Break time. Editorials next.
Conveniently located in the Grenadian Shopping Center, for over 40 years, Food Fair has provided quality service at affordable prices. Now, grocery shopping is made easier and more convenient from the Food Fair web store.
Hey, babe. Listen, I need you to go down to Food Fair to get some groceries.
All right, no problem. Right away.
Thanks, babe. What are you doing? You're supposed to be going Food Fair to get a grocery, man.
I am, but didn't you know you can order your groceries online from the Food Fair web store?
Are you serious?
Of course. All you have to do is just to log on to www.foodfair.gd with credit card in hand, and with an order of $100 or more, Food Fair Grenadians will deliver up to 3 miles away. And you don't even have to worry about your information, you know. Their safety measures are excellent.
So hold on. You just order online and Food Fair will deliver to you?
Yep,
Oh, baby, better hurry up and order, man.
I already did. They should be here any minute now.
Enjoy easy online shopping anytime from your home or office from the Food Fair web store. Food Fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets.
We are honored to partner with the Grenada Schools, Inc., the Ministry of Education, and the Caliste Government School in providing this library. GCPI program put $120,000 or 66% of the cost of the library. But it's not an investment that is intended to bring a financial return. It is an investment in the human capital of our youth in Grenada.
GRENLEC has shown us their seriousness about partnership, their seriousness about education, and their seriousness about nation building. That local partnership tells our major donors that Grenada is interested.
We have got a big vision at Grenada Schools. We believe that what we can do is, through literacy, have the most literate country in the Caribbean. We are very happy that you got this gift from ourselves and from GRENLEC.
We see this library as a unique and valuable resource. One of the best things about receiving this library is that it honors and recognizes the efforts and contributions of a company like GRENLEC and Grenada Schools Incorporated.
Since 1994, GRENLEC shareholders have invested over $22 million. This has been invested in the communities throughout Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. We hope this library will serve the students and school well for many years to come.
Studying too hard about back-to-school expenses? Co-op Bank is making back to school as easy as 1, 2, 3. Enjoy competitive interest rates, affordable monthly payments, speedy decisions on applications. Come in and apply today.
Can I have a chicken lunch, please? Large.
Real nice today.
I don't want that.
But you just asked for a chicken lunch.
I don't have problem with the lunch. Afraid the container.
What is the problem with it?
These styrofoam containers, they don't good for the environment. They shorten with life.
What foolishness you telling me? So what you want me to use?
Put my food in this.
Where you get that?
At the food fair, where you could get all biodegradable food boxes and disposable food supplies like cups, plates, anything you could think about. Name it, it's there. And they don't harm the environment. Food Fair, taking the lead in cleaning up and protecting the environment. Like you take me advice, you get in your biodegradable food supplies,
Well, girl, I supporting who supporting the environment. That is why I shopping at Food Fair.
Food Fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets. Products distributed by Hubbard's agency, Kirani James Boulevard.
Alrighty, folks, just before I fire up the editorials, a couple of comments here. John says, John is talking about the fact that the PM security were kept on their jobs. He says, would anyone want to be protected by a tired and fatigued security detail? If that is indeed the case? Or is this financial juggling? Think about it. Ryan says, Grenada is an elected one-man rule, one-party state. No surprises in the shenanigans of the chief. Ernesto says, the PM bullish mentality and disrespect just continues. I wasn't surprised. And again, the condolences continue to Margaret. Anthony de Riggs saying, my sincerest condolences to Margaret. Stay strong. Pele Darbo is saying, sincere condolences to Margaret. Okay, folks. Let's get into editorials. 2 for you this morning. The Grenada Advocate, which was published on Wednesday, is captioned, The Vagaries of the Game. And here's a quote to begin. The umpires take decisions in the field of play with their interpretations of the rules. That's a statement from the ICC. Now, we should congratulate the England team on the achievement last month of their first ODI World Cup championship since the competition began in 1975. And we wish also to commiserate with the plucky New Zealand team on their loss in the final. We must concede, however, that we are less than satisfied with the eventual outcome of the match, both in terms of how it reached the need for a winner to be decided off the field of play, and the ultimate resolution of this conundrum. Readers will recall that the team scores were tied at the end of the mandatory 50 overs, thus necessitating the employment of the single super over to break the tie. It is there that we have our first difficulty, since the equality of scores was achieved only by having credited the English team with 6 runs for an errant throw that both struck the bat of one of the English batsmen as he tried to reach his ground for a second run and ran away to the boundary. However, according to informed sources, most notably former leading umpire Mr. Simon Toffel, 5 runs only should have been awarded, since the 2 batsmen had not crossed each other when the ball struck the bat of Mr. Stokes. A report in the Sydney Morning Herald quotes Mr. Toffel as defending the 2 umpires, given the chaotic nature of the game at that stage. But he was equally adamant that an error had been made. The relevant law, number 19.8, states, and I quote, if the boundary results from an overthrow or from the willful act of a fielder, the runs scored shall be any runs for penalties awarded to either side, and the allowance for the boundary, and the runs completed by the batsman, together with the run in progress, if they had already crossed at the instant of the throw or act. Since the 2 English batsmen had not yet crossed at the instant of the errant throw by the New Zealand fielder. 5 runs only out of 6 should have been awarded. But there's more. It is also a convention of the game that batsmen do not take the credit for overthrows that are gained purely because the ball has struck their bats or any part of their bodies. To all minds, however, there will always be controversies such as these, since, given the game's heady mixture of laws and conventions, it appears that at no time is anyone, including the players and the on-field officials, in possession at all times of a comprehensive knowledge of the relevant laws of the game and able to distinguish these from what is merely conventional. For this reason, the equivalent of the video assistant referee used in modern football would have been of no help last Sunday, since the officials would not have regarded anything as a miss and hence not referred on it. After the single super over failed to break the deadlock, the organizers of the tournament resolved the matter, as had been earlier provided, by a countback of the boundaries struck by each side during the match. We consider this mode of resolution ill-suited to deciding the winner of a major championship. But we do concede that this is an argument that should fairly have been put rather at the time of the creation of the rule. It has led some wags to observe that this may be the first time that the winner of the ICC World Cup was determined not by runs or by wickets, but by a rule. That, Pilgrims, the editorial which appeared in this past week's edition of the Grenada Advocate. All right? Okay. Hello, Susan. Susan Peters joining us now. Folks, I'll tell you what, rather than go to a break, since we're starting to run a little bit behind here, let's go directly to the editorial which appeared in this past week's edition of the New Today. This one's captioned, $250,000 payment for the elite squad. Is there an elite squad within the Royal Grenada Police Force that has been specially selected to form the security detail for Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell? The New Today is forced to ask this question in light of information now in the public domain of close to $250,000 to be paid from the public purse to 14 police officers assigned to the Prime Minister in lieu of holidays due to them. This figure is already raising many eyebrows in the country, especially among teachers and public officers who have been struggling without success to get the Mitchell-led New National Party administration to agree to the 25% gratuity and pension payment due to them, based on their interpretation of the provisions of the Grenada Constitution. It shall also be noted that this information is coming close on the heels of another financial scandal to rock the NNP regime that many have called Cell Phone Gate, in which one operative of the ruling party was exposed for illegally running up a state bill of $70,000 in just 3 months. The issue of this so-called elite squad around the Prime Minister that is costing the taxpayers so much money must be a cause of national concern. The squad must also be the envy of other units within the force, since they're seemingly the only ones in the RGPF that are benefiting financially in this manner. The message must be clear to other members of the force that you can work as hard as possible, but if you're not part of the elite squad, then benefits like payment in lieu of holiday will never come your way. This system is totally wrong and should be corrected as a matter of urgency, since every unit in the police force is important in the grand scheme of things. Are the authorities saying that the members of the so-called elite squad are more important than the firefighters who climb mountain after mountain in the country to put out bushfires every dry season? Are the powers that be sending a message to the rest of the police force that the drug squad members who might stay many nights in the bushes and forests to keep this country safe from drug pushers are not as important as the elite squad around the Prime Minister? The fact of the matter is that public officers are normally required to take their holiday leave, failing which they will not get paid for it and might end up losing all of it. It is puzzling to think that those who are running the police force will not make any adequate provisions for a system to be put in place to send a fresh batch of officers to relieve those officers in the elite squad who are due to take their holidays. This newspaper checked with former Prime Minister Tillman Thomas, who indicated that during his stint in office, the state did not pay a single cent extra to police officers assigned to him, as they were always given their holidays when due to them. Why is the situation now so different with Prime Minister Mitchell? Why would he want a different arrangement at the expense of taxpayers? If he had to foot the bill himself, would Dr. Mitchell put his hand in his pocket and take out $250,000 to pay persons in lieu of holidays? Is one man in the country bigger than the system that put in place by the RGPF that worked in the past with other prime ministers? Another question. Who is in charge of this elite squad around the Prime Minister? And to whom are these officers reporting with regards to their work schedule? During the 2003 to 2008 term in office of Prime Minister Mitchell, the then Commissioner of Police, Winston James, made a startling revelation after a member of the special branch was caught red-handed spying on an executive meeting of the Congress Party, and his special tape recorder was taken away from him. The head of the special branch at the time was Superintendent Anthony DeGale, who was often seen as part of Dr. Mitchell's security detail and traveling around the island. Commissioner James said then that Superintendent DeGale never reported to him, leading to speculation that the head of the special branch was breaking police rules and regulations as well as protocol by reporting directly to the Prime Minister. Dr. Mitchell has now taken full responsibility and exonerated Acting Commissioner of Police Edwin Martin on the current issue of the $250,000 to be paid to 14 police officers in this elite squad. Under what regulation or law in the country is Dr. Mitchell taking personal responsibility for the payment of this large sum to the elite officers? Is he acting outside of the law? Are we seeing a blatant dictatorship at work? Is Grenada also seeing the rebirth of the mongoose gang type of politics, with the creation of an elite squad to serve the needs of a prime minister? Is this so-called elite squad similar to the Tonton Macoute in Haiti under the Duvalier dictatorship? Is there any known or conceivable security threat to Dr. Mitchell as Prime Minister, or an abnormal situation in the country that warrants this kind of assault on the Treasury, which has to pay 14 members of this elite squad $250,000 in lieu of holiday? That, Pilgrims, is the editorial which appeared in Friday's edition of the New Today. Okay, back here, let's see, some comments here. I'm reading these comments for the first time, so remember, folks, take your time and type properly. John says, the batsman had crossed as he was hardly likely to dive from halfway down the wicket. Would he? He says, but now it's cricket history. Yep. Fitzroy said, George, it is very simple. Who have more corn will grow more fowl. I haven't heard that one in a while, Fitzroy. John is asking a question. So what do they do when the PM is off island? Maybe that's why they should take their leave. Just saying. Kipling says, the PM openly admits that he violated the law and was laughing when doing so. Yet, all we can do is talk, talk, talk. No mass demonstration. So Keith is right to do whatever he wants. Sad state of affairs. Absolutely, Kipling. Ernesto Jose says, we have to give credit to Mr. Jones for breaking those two news items, PhoneGate and the PM's elite security team. Absolutely. All right, Pilgrims. Okie dokie, okie dokie, okie dokie. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Let's take a little break and come back with something that's going to put a little smile on your face. Hang in there.
Conveniently located in the Grenadian Shopping Center, for over 40 years, Food Fair has provided quality service at affordable prices. Now, grocery shopping is made easier and more convenient from the Food Fair web store.
Hey, babe. Listen, I need you to go down to Food Fair to get some groceries.
All right, no problem. Right away.
Thanks, babe. What are you doing? You're supposed to be going Food Fair to get a grocery, man.
I am, but didn't you know you can order your groceries online from the Food Fair web store?
Are you serious?
Of course. All you have to do is just to log on to www.foodfair.gd with credit card in hand, and with an order of $100 or more, Food Fair Grenadians will deliver up to 3 miles away. And you don't even have to worry about your information, you know. Their safety measures are excellent.
So hold on. You just order online and Food Fair will deliver to you?
Yep.
Oh, baby, better hurry up and order, man.
I already did. They should be here any minute now.
Enjoy easy online shopping anytime from your home or office from the Food Fair web store. Food Fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets.
GRENADA Community Partnership Initiative, supporting health.
To the individuals who will be using these vehicles to serve the people. Please ensure while we are using these tools that we use these tools in a manner that we will all be proud of. To GRENLEC, a long-standing partner with us, a true testament of what can happen when private and public sector work together for the benefit of the people.
GRENLEC, energizing our community.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Alrighty, folks, I mentioned to you that, this little piece coming up here, I don't know the gentleman's name, but he said that, I'm saying to you that it should put a little smile on your face, yes. But when you sit and listen carefully to what this man is saying, he's got some genuine concerns, and he's not the only one. He's not the only one, okay? Check this out. This occurred while I was leaving the hospital on Wednesday afternoon. A gentleman called out to me, said he wanted me to interview him because he had some things he wanted to get off his chest about this country. Check this out. About 3 minutes.
What I'm saying is that we deserve better than just what we have been given to us. It seems as though when people, just taking it for granted that because they're benefiting in one way or the other, it's all right. It's not all right. I feel really hot to know that a man they put to represent us in St. Mark's, Mr. Roland Dewsbury, the man can't even finish laugh. They don't vote for him. No, you ever see a man half laughing? He can't even laugh good. You want to go in line with Governor General like Mr. Danny Williams and them. Right now, the man wife homeless. While the Prime Minister boasting and say he have a nice place. St. Mark's is his second home. I mean, everybody need a night dress, including me. One time she chased me from the place, Come out in the place, I don't want you here. Today, the same lady doesn't have a home. I don't know what arrangement they had. In terms of, they say about the place. That's all right. But the position he holds clearly defines that he should do better than that. Just give her a little, if it's like a bomb shelter, a little dog house, so she could rest herself. Hallelujah. Right now, she in the Hillsview home, yeah? And as far as the people saying they waiting on a bed in the poorhouse to put her. The thing about life is, what goes wrong will come wrong faster and sooner than we believe. Retribution is not taking long as before. People have said, Max, open your eyes. After all these years, you mean the parliamentary representative can fix the medical station to house a nurse day in the night? We don't have an ambulance. So if something should happen in the night, what happens? When the Sorters Health Center closes at 7 o'clock, the driver in closure have to pack up the ambulance in Guav and go home and leave the ambulance in Guav. The police have to find him. We are grateful to the police for the service provided, but the police can only do so much. Yes? So I'm saying that the Ministry of Health should use their senses, which is not common, to let the man go up with the ambulance and keep it in a safe so he can respond appropriately. Isn't that making sense? When them get sick, they are playing to a leaf and they massacre, And we don't have nothing more than problem. It is time for Grenadians to open their eyes, to see for themselves that this government is not in their best interest. Come on, man. When you ask for the pay, they say they can't give you money, but they have money to spend on all this kind of phone bill. Look at me, since 2011, I have my overtime money. They're not giving me. But I'm saying I want my money. Yeah? I need my money. I work for it. Yes? He had two guys who helped me fix the soccer way in Southers. Oh no, they're watching me bad eyes, Mountbatten and James, because they believe I get money. I was only doing pro bono work. Ministry of Health should do better than that. The nurses are leaving the system and everybody staying mute. Find out if you can meet them on the whole way, meet them on the half. Yeah? Give them incentive. Build a housing scheme for them. Go in the bank, look for a lower interest rate so that you could make them more comfortable. In relation, as a matter of fact, just now there was up there, the doctors had to eat the thing dry, so they're even giving them some juice in the evening. If you want people to function properly in this area, and you have to make sure they're all right, you think you could make love on a hungry belly? Huh? It is time for Grenadians to see that this government is about them and their party cronies. I welcome Mr. George Grant because Mr. George Grant is an independent man. He speaks, and they try to shut him down too. Me too, they throw me in the kitchen. Well, and they say they don't know where else to put me, but I seen Drum and Roach and other things. Huh? The thing about it is you put me in the mud, I will grow as a lily. You put me in prison, I will end up a baker man. Anywhere you put me, God have a plan for me. Time for Grenadians to see that this government is not working in their interest.
Yeah. I told you, worth listening to. There's a lot of anger out there, a lot of resentment and anger. And by the way, Peter Bishop says, this man making a lot of sense. All right, folks, up next, my good friend, Margaret. A lot of Margarets in my life. This one is Margaret Hughes, wife of the late journalist Alister Hughes. Alister passed away some time ago, and before his death, he started putting together his memoirs, and they have now been published by his wife, Margaret Hughes. This past week, I had a conversation. She's in Ireland, by the way, and had a conversation with her, and I'd like to share that with you. For those of you who knew Alister, should bring back a lot of memories. Well, folks, this morning, for the first time in many, many years, I have an opportunity to speak with somebody who's been very, very dear to me, she and her husband. You may not know her, but I'm sure that just about every Grenadian knows about a gentleman by the name of Alister Hughes. Alister is now deceased, and he was a very dear friend. Let me say good morning to Margaret Hughes. How are you, Margaret?
I am very well, George. I'm living in Dublin, Ireland, and next week I'll be 87 years old.
You're doing better than the West Indies cricket team, girl.
Well, when Alister was writing his memoir, he wept quite a lot, George. And the sentence was, I never let them see me flinch.
Say that again?
I never let them see me flinch.
Yeah.
But, he was two attempts on his life under Gary, and then he was imprisoned by the
PRG.
Marxist. Yes.
And
he always turned up, and he was under house arrest. He had house searches, and that takes a great toll. So when I met him, he actually had cancer already.
Okay.
And then he had a few strokes. And I think the hurricane was very upsetting for him, especially the looting. And he was so worried about his newsletter, which was his newspaper of 22 years, that he had it sent to Barbados for safety.
Mm-hmm.
And, he was a very strong person mentally and physically, but it took its toll, George. It took its toll. But he was fearless. He was fearless. And the sentence he used was, I never let them see me flinch.
Okay. I remember him as being a very strong person, and I'm very anxious to hear a little bit about the book. You want to share a little bit of what we can expect when we read about that book?
Yes. Well, the point was that at one stage we went to a talk in St. George's University on a history professor from America called Blinkley. He's a very famous man, and he did a talk on the woman who wouldn't give up her seat in the bus. I can't remember her name. And when he finished, he said, and you know, Grenada, you have a very interesting history as well, and maybe someday I'll come back and write that. So when we got home, I said, Alister, where will he get the material to write the book? And he said, oh, from me. And I said, why don't you do it, Alister? And he started there and then.
Okay, so he started writing the book.
3 years, over 3 years, he's writing his memoir.
Okay.
The book.
Yeah.
Now, what happened then was he gave it to a relative to finish it because he was dying and he hadn't finished it. And it went to Canada to his cousin for a very few years, and it kind of, nothing happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I managed, with the help of Alister's friend in America called Bruce Potter, who was the Conservation Caribbean. Alister was a director of that. And we got back, I got it back, because Alister had willed me all his papers. So finally I got it back, and well, look, it took me a while. Now, the main thing I want to say about this book is that it is Alister's writing. I didn't change it, edit it. I simply got it formed into what would be a paperback.
Okay.
So maybe moved paragraphs or that kind of thing, you know. And then I put in the citation from the University of the West Indies when he was given an honorary degree.
Yeah.
I put in a citation from the head of the American Army who headed the forces into Grenada, Colonel Farris. I put that in. I put in his poem called The Caribbean Man, because Alister's main sentence in life was, we are Caribbean people.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to believe that we live here, we are here, and not looking outward to other powers for affirmation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I put in some of his main interest in life was language. And it's called non-standard English, which is what he collected. In other words, the language of local Caribbean people, which is a mixture of French, Spanish, Arawak, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And he used to carry a pen in his pocket and a notebook, and he wrote down 1,000 cards with these sentences on it. You know, what is it, me navel string berry here. You know that
Yes,
one.
yes, I remember that, yeah, yeah.
And he wrote all those down, and they are in the library. Those cards, 1,000 cards, where he collected all that language, it's in the library in Grenada. And I hope to have that published. I'm looking for some university who's interested in non-standard English. Not a dialect, it's not any of those. It's called non-standard English.
Okay, Margaret, you know, I'm trying not to give away too much about the contents of his memoirs.
Okay, fine.
However, I think perhaps one of the things Alister was best known for was his defense of free speech in Grenada.
I know.
Does that come across in his memoirs?
Not as an issue. He, you know that the press were put into prison under the PRG.
Right.
And he was the journalist who was let out. He was free. but they were all, put in prison. The others were in prison. And it was only when Maurice Bishop was killed that he was taken that night and put into prison. So they let him free, they said, because, this is a democracy, Alister Hughes is free.
Okay.
And of course he was the BBC correspondent, Reuters, and so on. So it was about showing how democratic they were because Alister Hughes was free.
Yeah.
But I don't think that he campaigned for the notion of free speech. He was free speech, I think.
Yeah.
It was just so he wasn't. It was only when he started writing the memoir that he was reflecting on all the things that happened. As it was, he just loved Grenada, loved the Caribbean, believed in federation, and his father was the mayor of Grenada for St. George's for about 12 years, and he was believed in federation and went to London about it.
Okay.
But Alister was just lived every day. He lived his life. He lived his beliefs, but it was when he sat down to write, and then he didn't finish that because he got at least 2 strokes. We came back to Ireland twice a year. He did it. The memoir is a summary from the Grenadian newsletter, which was his newspaper.
Okay.
The Grenadian newsletter. That's 22 years of a newspaper. And it's up online. The University of Florida has put that up online.
Go ahead.
Everything is coming out of that. The memoir is every day he sat down and he went through that, and then he wrote up some of the memoir. And at 6 o'clock every evening, he would read out to me what he had written, as he had his first brandy. And he insisted on cheap brandy.
Okay.
Anyone in Ireland that tried to buy him a Hennessy brandy, he said, "No, you're wasting your money. I want a cheap brandy." And that was Alister.
There's one more thing I want to ask you about before we wrap it up. And this has to do with Alister, I guess, being the envy of a lot of Grenadians. A lot of people look forward to receiving accolades from Buckingham Palace. And I understand that when offered to him, he actually declined an honor from Her Majesty.
Yes. He was called up by the governor. Tell me his name. I can't remember now because
the
my
Governor
memory...
General here?
Yes.
Was it Paul Scoon?
No. The man who was there during the revolution. And I think he was there when I was there. Anyway, he called Alister up with a piece of paper to say...
Paul Scoon was the person who was here during the revo.
No, it was... I'll think of his name, George.
Okay, go ahead.
Check that. Anyhow, you see, he called him up to the governors and he had a piece of paper which said, "You've been awarded an honorary title by the British government." So Alister handed back the piece of paper and said, "I will take no honour from a colonial power. It scrambles our brains." And then he said to me, "The only regret I have was I didn't keep the piece of paper to put into my library."
That sounds like the Alister Hughes I knew.
He was a huge collector.
Yeah.
And all his collection is in the museum, in the distillery up, what's it called? The Williams own it.
Mm-hmm.
up from Grenada. They have a museum up there and all his stuff went there. Everything he had. He said the museum in St. George's wasn't fireproof. So he put it all up to that distillery. You know, the Williams, where they have made a museum?
Yes?
Well, that's where all his stuff is.
Okay.
And his only regret about the honours was that he hadn't a proof of a piece of paper, because he handed it back and said, I don't believe in colonial honours. They scramble our brains.
Finally,
But
Mark.
I will take any honour from my own people. So he got an honour from the University of the West Indies. It was given to him in Barbados. That was before I met him.
Okay.
And I put that citation into the book.
Margaret, one final question. You know, Alister meant a lot of things to many people. And now that you have published his memoirs, what would you like to see his legacy be?
Well, I remember, he said it in the end, I put it into the book, he wants Grenadian people to believe in themselves and to stand up and get on with life and be proud of who they are.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted them to be not exiled inside themselves, not mental exiles or spiritual exiles, like, you know, post-colonial people suffer from that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because they keep on saying we want to go back to London for our titles and our honorary, you know, he didn't believe in that. So he wanted them to accept that they were rooted in the Caribbean, in their diverse history, and accept that and learn about that.
Very briefly, tell me about the availability of those memoirs.
Pardon? Well, the memoirs are with the Marischal House. They're in Marischal House now, and they're being given out to schools free of charge. My son got them self-published, and he lives in Switzerland. He got them done there, and they were posted to the Marischal House, where they've now arrived. And they're selling for 10 EC dollars, and that money will go to books for the University Marischal House.
Okay.
I think there's a free copy for you, George.
Oh, jeez. Lucky me. Thank you very much.
Diana, that's the one Diana's manager is.
When do you plan on coming back? I understand it's about 3 years.
I'm not coming, George. It's 20 hours from Dublin to Grenada, and I am now too old for that. I have to get to London, to Gatwick, stay the night, and then go on. I won't be able for it. I'm not able for that. I'm very well, but I mind myself, and I would love to be there, of course, with this book, but it's just been posted. So I talk to my friends, I write to them and see them when they come here. Margaret stayed here with me last year. Diana comes to Ireland regularly. So that's it. I read the papers online.
She laughs.
All scandals.
Yes.
And the politics. I'm very interested in all that. But of course, I would love to. I would love to go out to La Sagesse and have him. Oh, I loved it there. We used to go there with Alister on a Sunday. And of course, I can always remember on Christmas, we used to go way up the island to a beach and pick up all the debris, and that was our Christmas tree. We put that up on our Christmas tree.
My goodness. My goodness.
And of course, I loved the the drive over into the forest and all that. I loved it.
Grenadian.
Grenadian, beautiful. So that's it, George.
Well, I'll tell you what, the next time Diana and Margaret are coming to see you, ask them to tag me along.
I will, George. Well, you know Diana's family live here.
No, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, she's coming in August. Her sister, nieces, nephews, and all live in Cork, where I come from.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Yeah, there you have it. That conversation was held just this past week, a few days ago. Boy, oh boy, I don't know where to begin. There are a lot of comments there that I want to get in, but there are also some comments from the piece that we did previously, the street talk piece. Just let me scroll back here a little bit. Okay, where do I begin? Hang on a sec. Let's see. Peter Bishop was talking about the piece we did before, and he said, please forgive me, I'm not taking this in order, but it's the way I got to do it this morning. Peter was saying that gentleman made a lot of sense. Margaret says, ain't nothing funny about what he's saying. Makes a whole lot of sense. Yeah, you guys were talking about that. Ernesto Jose says, wow, that was deep. Yeah, I knew that would move you people. Ryan Jabon says, this Grenadian compatriot makes good sense.
Lord.
Now, Sean's Julian saying, broadcast interrupted. Sean, if that is happening, it may be your service provider, because let me tell you, things are working beautifully here this morning. The signals are going out just fine, and you seem to be the only person complaining. So it may be either your system or your provider. Kurt Licorice, and this comment really moved me. Kurt says, as a youth, I don't understand how this country running. Kurt, I share your pain. A lot of us share your pain. We're asking the same question. Ernesto says, Gigi, I think you should have a part of the program called Real Street Talk, where locals get to vent as this guy did. Yeah, I'm working on it. Anthea Rello says, Leo de Gale. I'm not sure what that comment was about, but Margaret says, don't talk too quick. Wait until Franka come on and you go see. Margaret is referring to the interruptions. Oh, hold on a sec, folks. Let's keep our little pinkies crossed. And let's be optimistic. Okay, Wayne Hutton Francis Sr. says, I have fond memories of Mr. Alister Hughes. We worked on a book published, Grenada, Spice Island of the Caribbean, around 1993. I also remember him telling me after I pronounced Bathway in St. Patrick. He told me anytime I heard anyone pronouncing Bathway, I should correct them and let them know it's Bat, not Bath, Bathway. All right? And it was so named because of the Bathway fish, which was and still is caught in that area. Wayne, thank you very much. I didn't know that. And Margaret says here, Paul Schoon was the GG, Governor General, under PRG. Yeah, I try to make that point to her, Margaret. John, are you having problems now too? John says, have I summoned the gremlins? I hope not. Bob Marichaux says, Museum, Westerhall Distillery for Alister Hughes. Not sure how that fits in, but Margaret says, remember De Gale. Did the PRG appoint Schoon then? Can't remember when the transition took place. Anthea says, not sure, but I think at the beginning of the revolution, it was De Gale. Oh, I'm going to ask Franka that in a few minutes when we get to her. Maybe she might know. Okay. All right, folks. Yes, it's 10:35. Franka is here. Just, if you don't believe me, just hold on a sec. Take a look. There she is, getting all saddled up. And she's going to be with us in just a wee bit. So hang in there. Franka Bernardine's going to be with us for about an hour, just a little under an hour and a half. And let's go now to a little break, and we'll come right back with Franka.
We are honored to partner with the Grenada Schools, Inc., the Ministry of Education, and the Caliste Government School in providing this library. GCPI program put $120,000 or 66% of the cost of the library. But it's not an investment that is intended to bring a financial return. It is an investment in the human capital of our youth in Grenada.
GrenLec has shown us their seriousness about partnership, their seriousness about education, and their seriousness about nation building. That local partnership tells our major donors that Grenada is interested.
We have got a big vision at Grenada Schools. We believe that what we can do is, through literacy, have the most literate country in the Caribbean. We are very happy that you got this gift from ourselves and from GrenLec.
We see this library as a unique and valuable resource. One of the best things about receiving this library is that it honors and recognizes the efforts and contributions of a company like GrenLec and Grenada Schools Incorporated.
Since 1994, GrenLec shareholders have invested over $22 million. This has been invested in the communities throughout Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. We hope this library will serve the students and school well for many years to come.
Can I have a chicken lunch, please? Large.
Real nice today.
I don't want that.
Well, you just asked for a chicken lunch.
I don't have problem with the lunch. Afraid the container.
What is the problem with it?
These styrofoam containers, they don't good for the environment. They shorten with life.
What foolishness you telling me? So what you want me to use?
Put my food in this.
Where you get that?
At the food fair, where you could get all biodegradable food boxes and disposable food supplies like cups, plates, anything you could think about. Name it, it's there. And they don't harm the environment. Food fair, taking the lead in cleaning up and protecting the environment. Hey, like you take me advice, you get in your biodegradable food supplies.
Well, girl, I supporting who's supporting the environment. That is why I shop in at food fair.
Food fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets. Products distributed by Hubbard's agency, Kirani James Boulevard.
Studying too hard about back-to-school expenses? Co-op Bank is making back to school as easy as 1, 2, 3. Enjoy competitive interest rates, affordable monthly payments, speedy decisions on applications. Come in and apply today.
Alrighty, folks, the moment of truth is here. However, you guys are still debating who was the Governor General back in the days of the Revolution. I see some comments here. Margaret says, remember De Gale. Did the PRG appoint Schoon then? Can't remember when the transition took place. Anthea says, not sure, but I think at the beginning of the revolution, it was De Gale. Margaret says, okay. Sharon Roberts says, for all of the revolution, it was Paul Schoon. However, it might have been Danny Williams who offered Alister an award. We'll find out if Franka knows anything about that. Weston Aline says, Sir Paul was appointed by Sir Eric Gairy, if my memory serves me right. Margaret says, Sharon and Weston, that's what I thought. But you know how my memory is. Now, here she is. Good morning, good morning, good morning, Ms. Bernardine. How are you?
Morning, George. I'm very well, thank you, and good morning to all the listeners out there. And it's good to be back on the George Grant program. It's been a while.
Boy, Franka, it's been a long time. It really has been a long time. And I am so delighted that you are back. Because we have a lot to talk about this morning.
Yes.
We have a lot to talk about this morning. And I'm going to start by just reminding people, I think it's been a long time since we last spoke. A lot has happened since. One, you've had an election.
Yes.
Two, you lost your husband.
Yes.
What else has been going on, Franka?
Plenty things, George. Do you ever have a country that's quiet? There's always...
Never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment.
Yeah.
Never a dull moment.
Yeah.
So despite whatever else that may be going on in your life, you certainly have to keep a focus on where you're standing, what's rushing past, and what's trying to escape past your past your feet, you know. So there's been a lot of up and down, and a lot of some travel involved as well. But never lost my focus and never lost my commitment to National Democratic Congress.
Let's get right into it, Franka. You know, a lot has transpired since last we spoke. And as a former senator, a former minister, I want you to take a seat, take a deep breath, and sort of do a brief assessment of where we are right now, an assessment of the conditions that are prevailing in this beautiful little land of ours.
Grenada has never been a quiet place as far as I can see, George. There is always something in the pot boiling, you know? And certainly under this present government, there is always controversy, always concern, always issues and so on. But so that I want to point out right from the very start, and I'm glad you raised it, I'm really here to comment in my capacity as a Grenadian, and a concerned and patriotic Grenadian, and a former senator and minister. So the perspectives are very much from that angle of things, you know, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity, really, to be able to express, to be asked, and then to express my views with respect to what is going on, what all is going on. I want to say too that I'm not much of one for mudslinging and stoning. So while I recognize its value from time to time, when it's necessary, I'm not going to waste my time focusing on the stoning of the government or the personalized comments to people and so on. I'm looking at the perspective of Grenada, where it's at, what is happening, and what can we do, and the direction in which we should move. It's very clear to me that we should certainly be focused up, carrying the country up and forward, and less argument and fight laterally. So that generally is going to be my approach, you know?
I can't wait. I can't wait. So here's a good starting point. You know, we hear all the news about things being so good, how our economy is booming, but the man on the street seems to disagree, because even though it may be booming, he's not feeling it. Are we prospering right now?
Well, let's take a look around and see what we're actually seeing and whether in fact we are. Let me quote the Prime Minister's actual words on the meeting on this past Tuesday and Wednesday Yes, that, and I quote, Grenada's economy remains strong. According to CDB, it is the fastest growing economy in the Caribbean.
Wow, okay.
Tourism is doing well. Unemployment rate is 16%. Now, I will have to see that to accept that. You know, the evidence around us, do you see what all is going on around us? And does this picture fit with what there is? As far as I'm concerned, you know, the picture and the statistics look well, but you have to be very careful, as we know. We understood from Senate days that there was always a story going on below the table, in addition to the one on top of the table. And the evidence is before us. People are seeing a lot of trouble here in Grenada, not only the poor ones, and I'm going to give some examples of the level of struggle that we are seeing, but also to even the middle class, people who should be able to manage financially in many little ways or spend time studying, acquiring skills and so on. Struggle, struggle, struggle. It's really a difficult thing, and are barely being pulled down into even a lower category, having forced themselves up and driven themselves up with effort. They are still seeing a lot of difficulty and a lot of trouble. In fact, I want to quote a very interesting article that came out about 3-4 months ago, and it was on the internet as well, put out by an economist, prominent world-class economist. And he was giving an analysis of things in Grenada. This gentleman was involved in the development of Singapore. So that's to tell you the level of person we are talking about here, an assessment. And in his article on Grenada, I'm sure most of you saw it, many of you saw it, he quotes about 8 to 10% maximum. I think it's actually 8% that are enjoying the benefits of
8%.
financial aid. 8%.
Okay, okay, go ahead.
And he says of that, a good half are foreigners who are here and are, you know, have invested or whatever. The rest would be the percentage of the people who are living comfortably, enjoying life and so on. Everybody else is battling on tooth and nail. So you really have to wonder when in fact we get statements like this and figures, where is all of this lining up? How is an economy that is doing so well and the fastest growing in the, it might be the fastest growing, but if you're growing from 1 to 2, you know, it's not, what impact does that have on your people, you know, and what is happening at that level? Certainly, what is purported by the government is not trickling through at all into the level of struggle at the bottom. And it's difficult to get jobs. The jobs are low paying in Grenada, and in chatting with another prominent Caribbean economist just about 5-6 days ago, he was saying that, for example, the jobs we get in Grenada are very low paying jobs. In order to get that economy to turn over, we have to have a lot more high-end employment, and it has to come from high-end skills. If you have good skills, good investors would come in and would employ your people with high levels of skill and so on. But they all, it's a composite picture. You need effort from several areas, but certainly in terms of the skills and what is required, we have a very low-end salary here, which does not allow people to even meet their basic needs, let alone have a little bit of money left over to play with, to build on a room that they could rent onto their house or whatever, you know. So I have a lot of concerns, and it is not being well explained for various reasons. We get in the rose dish and the butter up, but we're not getting the reality of what we're seeing on the ground. Notwithstanding, banks have not opened back or anything like this. I mean, we saw the big closure of the banks in Grenville, and one of the questions I had asked in the Senate at the time is that, do banks close when business is booming? Ask yourself as a Grenadian on the road. Forget about the economists are there, and they are planning. I'm talking about the man on the road now. And what are the little details? And I want to talk very much at that level today, where lay people like myself could understand and speak. Banks don't close when business is going well. So the fact that all those banks closed meant we know what's taking place.
It's a signal.
Yeah, it's a signal. And we must be realistic. I mean, I look too at the slow business on a Saturday morning, Saturday close to Carnival, look around and see what the business is like on the street. You certainly are witness to a lot more persons begging in strategic points.
Tell
you know?
me about it.
Yes, at the pharmacies, at the supermarkets, and so on. And there's concern. Well, it may be that the social services are not clipping into people at that level the way they should, and so on. But that discussion will come up further down the line. The issue is the reality of what is before us. When you visit into the communities, my goodness me, I'm going to share these two particular examples. So there's a young lady whose teeth, she has no teeth because she has no money to replace the ones that were taken out. And I wonder how a person without teeth like this struggles, and she's not an old person by any means, you know, I would put her in her late 30s, but struggle all over. I don't know how people could tuck away millions and there are people without teeth living in the community and have no means to purchase, any means to be able to eat daily, you know. And this is the level of struggle I am talking about. When I visited her home, quote unquote, it was with even greater dismay. She was so proud of her little pad. Not a bed, a bunch of old clothes really was the bed at one corner, neatly put to one corner of her one-room place. And nothing to cook. She had a one-burner stove, but of course no money to buy gas. So she was in fact cooking on a little coal pot and so on. Very contented kind of person, but living at the most basic human level. Another one I want to draw to your attention is a little family that I visited, and this was actually in St. George's, the constituency that I was running for. And I stepped into the house to say hello and so on, and my foot went right through to the ground below. I didn't notice because there was something spread over, and I know they were extremely, you know, little apologetic about it and so on, and I know they felt a little embarrassed, but there was nothing, there were no ground boards, there was nothing there, and you had to sort of walk along the edge to be able to get from one part to the other. This is the level of poverty that exists here, and we have under the table, we have the arguments and the fight going on about who gets the 100,000 for the next investment, and you hear the stories of the investors who can't get unless they put their percentage into the kitty, you see, for distribution. So it really, and it underlies, people are not foolish. They understand the struggle that is going on. They understand the favoritism, that sort of thing. But we'll talk about issues further down the line. I really wanted to just comment on the level of poverty we see. I want briefly to mention as well that in the town of St. George, there are still so many pit latrines. But we ain't hearing about these things at all, George. You know, we're hearing only that the economy is booming and people outside get the impression that Grenada is thriving. They know otherwise. They know otherwise because they also know that we don't get quite accurately the picture that there really is. You know, we're getting a fixed version in the hope that we could keep people feeling that things are going well, and therefore they could keep what they have, they could keep it going along one step at a time and struggling with it, when in actual fact we can do loads better, if we found a way to work together and get the critical things done. So it's an attempt to pull wool over the eyes of people and also to keep others in power. You know, the politics that we hear, that is purported, the Caribbean, and Grenada is no exception at all. In fact, Grenada is a leader in that, is that the politics is about telling people things so you could stay in power. Politics is nothing about that, you know. Politics is about people. And as long as we keep that tone of politics, where we are not focused on the development of the island and the way forward for the island, and we into power and control for ourselves and for our friends and people, and strategies and systems to keep us there permanently. So, well, I mean, I have to laugh because I don't know. I don't see that side of life at all. I don't know if we think we're here forever. Maybe some of us think we're here for 200 years or 300 or whatever, and miss the essence of why you are there, which is to develop the country and develop people. Keep the focus, keep the focus. So we find that very often the strategies that people use and the covering over and the lack of an openness to answer truthfully to people who have hired you as a team of managers. Now, again, I'm commenting generally, George, you know, there's always people on either side of the bench, but the bottom line is that one has to take responsibility for what comes out. And that's one important part, too, of leadership, in that the stick stops here. So therefore, you have to take responsibility for that's what they put you there for, is a vote of confidence. So that it's, when stories come out and they don't quite mesh and fit and so on with the reality, and you don't explain what is happening and so on, but we see the evidence before us. As I say, the unevenness tends to bring mistrust and frustration. It breaks down between people. It leads to anger. It leads to angry encounters. It leads to a lack of peace, and will eventually lead, can't continue that way. It will eventually lead to a situation where of wars we've seen in Grenada here, where people just say, I've had enough, I'm not prepared to go that way.
And that's the scary part.
And that's the scary part, you see? So it behoves us to identify these things and talk out. But we're getting to a state where even to talk out is a big risk. I mean, Grenadians have to get up and defend their democracy. You have a right to choose. It is your choice. Nobody could fight you for that. If you chose the government as you did, then that's your choice. But you can't prevent me from having a choice and deciding which way to go and so on. You're encroaching on my democratic rights as a person. And therefore there is a need to talk and identify and say what is what, as you see it. You see? So, but
you know,
yes.
You got here on time, but there's something you missed that I ran earlier on this morning, and I hope that after you get back home, you'll take a look at the program.
Yes.
I spoke to a gentleman coming from the hospital one day this past week, and you should see the comments of support, in support of what this gentleman said. Here's a gentleman who is angry.
Yes.
He's gotten to the point of anger about conditions in this country right now.
Yes.
Because we're hearing a lot of lip service, which, like you said, the people realize now that what they're hearing has nothing to do with reality. You know? So. Franka, let me tell you, we have a lot to talk about this morning. We have touched on the economy, but Franka, there's so much more. We got health, we got education, you know? A lot of things to talk about.
Yes.
Take your pick. And something, before you pull out of here, something I want you to talk about is the value system in this country today. So take your pick. The value system, agriculture, education, health.
Yes, yes.
Take your pick.
Well, maybe I should start with education, as I look briefly, because that's my pet topic. But as I look over the last year, you know, because I've spent a lot of time, George, just looking and examining what is before us in terms of the general picture, as I mentioned. And again, examining what the people voted for and what in fact is emerging, and whether those two pictures are what they're supposed to be, etc. So in the course of the analysis, I want to say that it could only be foolhardiness, either that or a sinister plan, that one should try to antagonize the teaching profession in this country. You can't build a country without education. It cannot be done. So it is about empowering the minds of people. That's the essence of the thing. And we can't move forward, certainly not like our Caribbean nations, anywhere in the world. You can't move forward without education. People have to be empowered to think, to analyze, to learn skills, to understand clearly where we are going. It is amazing to me, and I sample it ever so often. Take a pop over to Barbados, take a pop over to St. Lucia. And the level at which you'll ask a question in the market or on the most basic looking people, a vendor or someone on the street who is trying to earn a living, their analysis of what's going on in Barbados is at a totally different level to us in Grenada, and it's their education. They are able to say, you see this here? This government that's in here should do a lot better for us, and here's why. And they will tell you. Now, they like the last Prime Minister, I like him, but he is not taking us where we want to go. So you see what we've done. And this level of thought, here now, we're still at a very basic level of I like the man or I like the lady. It's got to be more than I like a person if you intend to build a country. This is serious business, and people must be focused and understand clearly what are the choices before them. All of this comes from the empowering of the mind, the ability to think. Plenty is common sense. And if I may say, certainly as a former minister, I have not seen as many good ideas as have come forward coming from just ordinary Grenadians. They will tell you for themselves what the problem is. This and this is not happening to the school children, and this is what needs to happen. We have a clear vision. So the common sense part, as people used to say before, is right there. It's formal education to go with that, because you're not going to get jobs and so on and skills because of it. So I think it's terribly regrettable that they have managed to antagonize and withhold the request of the union and request of the teaching, the GUT and so on, in trying to get certain pension and gratuity and so on in place. Well, my goodness me, the first argument is that you cannot replace what a teacher does in a classroom with money, you know. It can't be done. You see? So when you stand, for example, in front of a class and you look at the children and you look at the bully, child inclined to bully other children, you know I have to keep an eye on him. I know I have to sort him out. And the little one that's likely to get bullied, and how to get him to strengthen and have more self-awareness and self-assuredness and so on. These kinds of, and the time that you spend with the slow learner, say, let me give her 2 little extra things. These are not things you can pay for with money, you know. This comes from the heart of the person teaching. Therefore, you have to appeal to their Christian values and to their community values to strengthen those children. As I always like to say to them, go in there and teach the people's children. If you need other support, we will get other support for you. But when you're depending on a whole slew of people, the whole nation depends on them. The little boy in the bus as a conductor went to school. The gentleman driving the bus went to school. They all pass in school somewhere. You see, including the Prime Minister, including all others. All of us pass there. So we are very dependent upon our teaching body, particularly at this stage of development, where in fact we're a growing country trying to get out of that. Is the education is going to lead out of us? We're holding out not to give them. You can't pay them for the job, man. You cannot pay them for the job. So find ways, if you can't come up with the cash to increase their salaries, which you can't, and we know that Grenada's salaries are at the bottom, then there were little incentives that some of the older people mentioned to me, which I knew, my own father had told me about it, whereby you arrange a little loan that they could borrow money against to either build a house or buy a car or without any interest, so that they're able to buy and pay back, because you can't pay them a whole lot of money. You have to look for creative ways. Instead of that, I find us in this whole fight, we end up in a whole fight with the secondary schools as a contest between government and the teaching. So you can run sports without teachers. How are you going to run sports without teachers? You need them to motivate, to empower, to encourage, to do everything. They're too critical of team in our development at this stage. So you must have some other reasons for keeping them antagonized, because certainly it was a bad decision as far as I'm concerned. I went last week to Grandad's and to get a takeout lunch. And the little lady, she must have been about 28, 29, said to me, you know, my daughter is 5 years old and she's going into primary school shortly. But guess what? Only 2 books they're giving us. And it's $25 for the 2 books. So I said, my dear, you're young in the business. Another 3 years, you're paying $180 for the computer trading. Books, you're paying $140 for the needlework. You're paying big money. How can you allow a program purely for political reasons to fall? Now, the story on the top is that it's still going. We understand clearly what is happening. And let there be no fooling about it. It is an NDC project and it was therefore allowed to fall. Simple as that. You cannot tell me every island in the Caribbean, most of the ones we associate with have book programs. 30 years ago, I was in a book program in the Bahamas with my little ones for the years I was there. And when I reported it as the Minister of Education from Grenada, and that was back in 2009, I said, well, we've gotten a book program, when you reported on the things you accomplished and so on. And Antigua looked at me and said, well, we have it for 18 years now. And St. Kitts had it for 14 years. They've all had it. It's not a hullabaloo. It's not a confusion. It's not an up and down. It is a pretty straightforward program. So don't give me story about it wasn't well organized. There's nothing to organize. It is not like a greater Grenville project that has many parts to it. You know, George, as if when you have a parking lot, you have rental places. It's a complex project. This is simple. You get your supplier, you have the books, yes, you have the books, you make the arrangement for them to come, you put in an elaborate plan for your distribution. How they're going to get to the schools, inventories for every school, one person appointed to handle it. The policy and program is well laid out there. You will have to tweak it and make sure it runs.
Sure.
Doesn't run by itself.
Yeah.
You don't set up Huggins and then walk away and say, oh, this is where we sell the board and that is where, and you walk away. You have to monitor the sale of the board and everything else. So bringing excuses like it's not properly set up is really a waste of time and an insult to people's intelligence. That is one of the simplest projects to set up. The monitoring must be done, and then in addition to the school monitoring, which the education officers and so on would do, and make sure the school appoints the person. We even went as far as making sure there were shelves and so on to accommodate, and where would the books be stored and so on. It takes away very beautifully in the other islands. Dominica had a problem because they just gave, and the minister told me what the problem was, that they just took the books and gave it to the children. There was no inventory arrangement. I smiled to myself because I said to myself, I don't know what you all were thinking. But I remember at the time, no doubt they've sorted it out, and I don't know where they are with theirs at the moment. But the book program provided such a basic and fundamental need, you know, in development. It is a crying shame, really it is. Because as we understand it, it will undermine your system tremendously. I recall as well during my time that CARICOM brought for us a model program, and they chose of all the countries in the world, Finland, because they felt it most closely resembled what could happen and what was happening in the Caribbean. So they brought in a team from Finland to the Ministers of Education meeting. And in it, they outlined the importance of a book program so that children had books. And very interestingly, they didn't decide whether you had $40 a month to put on books. I had $70 a month across the board. That's what CARICOM's team explained to us. The book program, every child was given a meal, one meal. Everybody was given 2 uniforms. Your parents could get more and so on. And if you were more than 2 miles away from school, you could get free transport.
Yeah.
And what they explained is that with that thrust, which they kept in line regardless of what government came in and what government didn't come in, education rises over that. They kept it online, and according to the chief person that came with them, who was one of the ministers, explained that it took them 38, 39 years. But you know, he says everybody enjoys a certain high level of education, of living, a good standard of living. Now, they may not have very wealthy people, as he explained, but everybody could afford a little trip to Italy, a little trip to next door. The whole standard of living of the country raised because of their commitment and their trust. They also pointed out that their teachers, you couldn't teach there at primary level without a master's degree. You must have knowledge plus skills. And that was the other part they insisted for. So we understand that you need to empower your teachers and educate them, help them in whatever way to get the qualifications, and you need to provide certain amenities. With that in line, the struggle is well on its way. It's nearly over because your people are getting empowered. And as a result, everybody has a higher standard of living.
All right.
So,
Franka,
yes.
there's a lot more. There's a lot more. But you know,
There's a lot more.
something I really like to do is bring my audience into this. There are people who've been listening to you very intently here, and they're sharing their views. And I want you to hear those views because some of them you may want to comment on.
Yes.
First of all, Anthea says, "A lady of class, always." I hope that gets you feeling good.
Thank you.
Chris Davies says, "Good to hear you, Franka. Been missing you." Jerry Marichaux is saying good morning. Sharon Roberts says, "The best," and best is spelled in capitals, "the best minister for education Grenada ever had." Margaret, she's blushing. She's blushing, Margaret.
Thank you. I am honored with all these fine comments. Oh boy.
Kelvin Howell says, "My choice for leader of the NDC. Please run, Ms. Burns." Kelvin, don't jump the gun. I intend to get to that in just a wee bit. Give me a break, Kelvin. But thanks anyway.
Oh, God.
Joyce C. Smith is saying good morning to you. Somebody named Danley Alexis, I'm sure you know.
Yes, I know Danley.
Danley says, "Good morning, Franka. Very happy to see and hear you. It's been a long time.
Thank you.
Let your huge experience nationally, regionally, and internationally, and the connections that you have and have made, and now your maturity, be your guide to take you up the mantle of the leadership of the NDC. Sister Claudette Joseph, as a woman, has been single-handedly championing the cause.
Yes.
Hope you can be consistent with your position on behalf of the people." Ryan Jaban says, "Grenada has currently 32% poverty and the highest extreme poverty rate in the Eastern Caribbean, with a rate of 13%, albeit highest unemployment rates." And that quote came from BorganProject.org. Adrian Phillips says, "I say, Franka for Prime Minister next election. We need a change." Ernesto Jose. Couldn't you have a simple name like George Grant? Ernesto Jose says, "Ms. Bernardine, I heard you. And I know you meant well. But where is the NDC? The only voice I'm hearing in the wilderness is Claudette Joseph." Danley Alexis says, "When women are the best persons to get an objective view of what is happening." Now hold on a minute. Women are the best persons to get an objective view of what's happening in the country. Ernesto says, "I agreed, either her or Claudette Joseph. The men are sleeping." Sharon says, "Whoa, W-O-W, women of wisdom."
Lord.
Chris Davies says, "She had stuff going on, but she's back." He's explaining why we weren't seeing much of you.
Yes.
Alana Logie says, we prefer our children to look nice, but have no books in the free bags they're giving us. That way, they can have us right where they want us.
That's right. That is correct.
People out there know what's going on,
Oh,
Franka.
they know what's going on.
Okay.
I know what's going on. Let me just comment very briefly on the whole issue of where is the NDC, because it leads on to a point that I really want to make.
You have a lot more points to talk about, young lady.
Yes, true. Let me take two on this one, 2
All right.
minutes on this one. You have to understand, at least certainly I speak from my own experience. People, we must change our whole political thrust. This cannot be a body of 10 or 20 people telling the nation what to do and making noise, and the rest sitting back and critiquing. That is not how that change is going to come about.
Exactly.
That change is going to come about when we together address what the issues are that are creating a problem for us. As I said, I will give you an example. I walk on a path, not detailing where, in the mornings, and get stopped quite frequently. And everywhere, supermarkets, pharmacies, whatever. I really am getting it on all sides. Very positive comments and people encouraging and so on. This particular morning, it was a taxi man who stopped and he said, but I'm not hearing you at all. And I said to him, what is it you want to hear, sir, that you haven't heard before? I have been speaking for 10 years, 5 in the Senate and 5 as a minister in the Senate. And did you do anything about what we said? Didn't you? Was the outcome any different? Well, no, I said, and you went and you voted the other side. You still want to hear what I have to say? So he laughed. At that stage, he came out and he gave some other comments and so on. Well, they liked him. I said, well, I have no argument with that. You like who you chose and you put them there, but live with it. Why you want to hear from me now? You chose that. You must feel the effect, the consequences of your choice. That's what choices are about. You have to live with them. So I have to step back and see how you felt about the choice and what are you saying now about your choice that you made, for you to learn from that. And then I said to him, my dear sir, all I could do is shine a light and say, you see this road here that you're going down? That's the wrong road. And this is the right road over here. You got to get the education, you got to get the health sorted out, the agriculture and so on, tourism, etc. So you must be with me so that we could point these things out and get something. Politics is a we thing. It's not about what happens in the Caribbean today and in Grenada today, where I use my wit and intelligence to outmaneuver you so I could stay in power. You see, it's plenty more than that. And we have matured as a nation now. We must move past that. We must be able to say, look, we need a hospital that we can lie down in when we are ill. You think 30 NDC members are going to be able to bring this about? You have to be part of the thrust. And so I find that our vision on politics, it's not about a matter of getting up now and belting out more story. You know how it goes. That's why I didn't come with a whole, I do have my statistics here, but I didn't come to give out a whole set of statistics. You've been listening to them. The issue is, what change are we going to make to ensure that we are part of that thrust forward? Because until that happens, you're spinning top in mud. You'll just listen again to the voice of the charmer and keep going down the wrong road to all our thing. We have to pull them back or get somebody in there, get a government in there that is going to listen to us. We hired a team of managers.
We want to hear that because, there are a lot of people, who are putting their hope out there in the NDC, but, they're all saying the same thing, well-intentioned before the election, and when they get into office, mindsets change. Let me get back to some of these comments here, young lady. Bob Marishow says, a consummate professional in the true sense of the word. Lydia James says, good morning. remember, I rescued you and your mom at the airport. Good to see you. Great lady, she says. Anthony Park is listening to you.
Yes.
You know Anthony?
I so do.
Oh, okay. Shane Ross says, you know Shane?
Oh, very well.
So wait a minute. You brought your mob with you this morning, young lady? Shane Ross says, this is your time, Sister Franka. The New York chapter is behind you 100%. You are the mother of this nation. Lord have mercy.
Morning to
Franka.
the diaspora and Shane and the rest out there. Good. Good to know that you're out there. And thanks for the support.
Kipling Francis says, Franka, you are more loved than you will ever know. God's blessings.
Thank you, sir.
See? Johnny Grant says, certainly, the men are sleeping. Go for it, Ms. Bernardine. This country needs you. I tell all you, wait until we get to whether or not she is going to, wait, don't jump the gun. All right. Lydia James says, I meant to say I rescued her and her mom in the airport from a crazy man who attacked them. You remember that?
Yes, yes. Where is she?
I think she's in Toronto. I'm sure she's going to let us know. Kenny Stevens says, women of strength and reality. Chris Davis says, absolutely, Franka. It's a we thing. Ryan says, yes, ma'am. Actions have resultant consequences, so think about the consequences before you vote, Grenada. Ian Roberts says, Franka, as Grenada's PM is a no-brainer. Oh, so hold on a minute, let me reread that. Ian Roberts says, Franka, as Grenada's PM is a no-brainer, slam dunk, period. Well, let me tell you, if you didn't have a plan when you walked into the studio this morning, by the time they get through with you, you're all sorted out. Chester Simon says, Franka, your Swiss poses, I guess he meant your Swiss posse. Your Swiss posse is listening to you. Chester is in Switzerland. And
yes,
Lydia says, yes, she's in Toronto now. Franka, listen. Okay, so you touched on education. We ain't touched on agriculture yet.
No. Well, there are 3 or 4 points, very basically, that we need. The agriculture programs are far from what they ought to be, and disappointingly so. The NDC has a very clear plan with that, in that respect, and has aided heavily. It's available both in public form and type form, hard paper form, as well as online. But let me just make 2 or 3 quick remarks, and they will speak for themselves. And I want to quote here from the chief at Silver Sands with respect to getting agricultural products for the hotel, for example. I presume that's what his comment is about. And he says in the newspaper, Grenada is not ready yet. That's why they have to bring in stuff from the USA and elsewhere. They can't share and deliver what they would like to, because we are not growing it and producing it. It's as simple as that. So I leave that comment right way. It's not coming from me, it's not coming from the NDC, it's coming from people who live here. There have been complaints as well, complaints, but there have been comments from Sandals, I'm just quoting those 2, Sandals and Silver Sands, about the need that is not being met in terms of quantities. You have farmers, you have willingness, you have young people that could go into farming, not at the level necessarily as it was before, but using the technology and far more advanced ways in planning, you know, the hydroponics, for example, the water growth of plants through water, and many opportunities. But you see, it's as if our thrust is not there. We just maintaining the ride, riding along and maintaining the ride. You see, it needs innovative and creative, and there are plenty of people with talent, skill, and ability here. Another comment made, I think it's Leo Cato, that mentioned that the feeder roads are affecting agriculture greatly. You don't have road to bring the produce in, you can't bring the produce in. This is not the days of the old donkey and the whatever. These are conveyor belts that we're competing against in Latin America, bringing bunches of bananas and so on. Many more sophisticated methods, you see? So what he's saying is that the feeder roads are critical. We're not paying attention to that at all. After all, the bragging about what all roads would be in place. Let me mention as well, that was brought to my attention, that most of the beef is coming in from St. Vincent. So our whole livestock industry, I don't know how St. Vincent could be producing, rearing and raising enough for them and for us, and to export to other CARICOM islands. But they are. Perhaps we need to go over and see what they're doing so that we could try and bring it up here. We still haven't seen the abattoir. No abattoir, no explanation. More importantly, you may have had a delay, you may have had situations, circumstances, but say so. We need to be kept abreast of what is happening. All of this points to management, all of this points to management, George, and the sort of style, the autocratic style of management, which is so outdated, is pathetic. It's not about controlling people with a whip. It is about empowering people to want to measure up to the standards that they are capable from and raising with them and allowing them to flow and seeing how you can facilitate their flow so that we are able to get ahead. That's what we are all trying to do. And I want to say to those who are duly favored, unfortunately for you, it doesn't work that way. If the rest of us don't get favored as well on the island, we're all going to not develop. So that is where we just level off at a standstill, and we will have great conflict if we don't find a way to work together and make the growth happen in whatever skill and area of endeavor that we have. Health. Please let me, I'm flowing right along.
You're flowing right along. Well, that's fine. Just let me sneak a couple more here.
Please.
Yvonne Joseph says, "Morning, my sweet education minister. I was a teacher when she was the Minister of Education. The best. I love this dear lady. She just got what it takes." Kipling Francis says, "Franka, thanks for coming on this program. You can lead a horse to the water, but you cannot force it to drink."
Amen to that.
This program is not meant to force the horse to drink, but to get them to know the benefit of the drinking.
Yes.
Please come again.
Lord.
Roger Mitchell says, "We can't have guys just winging it in office anymore." Chris Davey says, "Great feeder roads recently finished in Mount Ruel." Okay. Franka, I need to take a little break. I need to come up for some air. Okay. But we're going to get right back with you. Hang in there.
We are honored to partner with the Grenada Schools, Inc., the Ministry of Education, and the Caliste Government School in providing this library. GCPI program put $120,000 or 66% of the cost of the library. But it's not an investment that is intended to bring a financial return. It is an investment in the human capital of our youth in Grenada.
GrenLec has shown us their seriousness about partnership, their seriousness about education, and their seriousness about nation building. That local partnership tells our major donors that Grenada is interested.
We have got a big vision at Grenada Schools. We believe that what we can do is, through literacy, have the most literate country in the Caribbean. We are very happy that you got this gift from ourselves and from GrenLec.
We see this library as a unique and valuable resource. One of the best things about receiving this library is that it honors and recognizes the efforts and contributions of a company like GrenLec and Grenada Schools Incorporated.
Since 1994, GrenLec shareholders have invested over $22 million. This has been invested in the communities throughout Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. We hope this library will serve the students and school well for many years to come.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
You know, folks, there are so many things. I made a list of things I wanted to talk with this lady about. We ain't gonna get near the entire list. However, I gotta tell you, one of the things I wanted to talk about is the need, or does she see the need for a restructuring and strengthening of her party? I also wanted to talk about some of the issues regarding women. Very importantly, the NDC's chances of being reelected. Because, you know, apparently nowadays we are living in an era where it doesn't matter how much support there is for a certain party out there. There's no guarantee that you're going to win the election. You know what I'm talking about? All right. But first, I want you to touch very briefly, Franka, on health in this country, because that is a major issue for Grenadians right now.
Yes, and rightly so, George. For a period of time during when we were campaigning and so on, I stopped speaking about health. So passionately I felt about it, because it's something I have felt and advocated must be well into 15 years now. It is a situation that it beats me that 100,000 people cannot seem to get themselves organized well enough to have one smoothly run hospital. All the ability that we have, management skills, education, good nurses, doctors we produced over the years, all the ingredients are there. We cannot get ourselves an institute that could look after us when you feel sick and you get ill, you can go in. So it's something I've always felt very passionately about, because I don't think it takes a genius to see what needs to be done. Clearly, the hospital is not the only aspect, of course, of health in Grenada. There are many other aspects to it, but it is the single biggest one that we have a major issue with and affects everybody all of the time. Having said that, I should have started off, first of all, by saying deepest condolences to Dr. Thomas.
Yeah.
Fine gentleman. And I'm sure my party would join me in that respect. I know they've already written it, I've seen it. But I still want to add that voice again, you know. He was the doctor that my husband saw the week before he died when he went into hospital, and he was so good to us. So our farewells, and may God continue to bless you on the other side, and that you reach your eternal rewards, Dr. Thomas. Sorry to your family for all that they have to endure. The tragedy is we don't have a facility or a hospital that we could lie down in, as I say. The good news is that it could be fixed. It is by no means an insurmountable or unsurmountable problem. Now, one of the issues identified, not by me, not by the former Prime Minister, by the World Health Organization, WHO PAHO, did a report on Grenada's hospital and came up with 5 clear recommendations. Well, they came up with one clear statement, but they gave 5 solid reasons why it should happen. They said you needed a new hospital. Simple. The reasons why you need to have a new hospital are, I don't remember all of them. I read the report. It was given to me by Sister Anne, who was the Minister of Health at the time. Very clear on what we should do and so on. I remember 2 of them being, one was the access to the hospital, excuse me, as being highly inadequate in today's world. You can't have one entrance going in and out, you're looking for trouble. pure trouble. And it's only a matter of time before it drops on you. So from that stage onwards. Secondly, the incinerator ought not to be in such close proximity to the operating theatre for obvious reasons. There were a number of reasons. There were big issues with the elevator and moving people up and down before and so on. They gave all their reasons and said, you need to move away from that. Based on that, the Minister of Finance, who was the line minister responsible for this at the time, did a superb job. That is former Minister and Senator Nazimberg. We planned for 2 solid years. I was not the line minister. He was, but I attended from the education point of view and the Minister of Health from the health point of view. We sat together with a team of persons who came in from IFC and planned a whole new, where would it be? Consultations were held and so on, where was the best location, best water supply, everything, all factors were taken into consideration, and brought that plan right up. June of 2013 was where the timeline began now for the implementation. I have all of the notes as I keep, as you all, the public knows, on all the meetings that were held and the conclusions of the IFC to the meetings, even to the meeting that was held the August before with St. George's University, because it was decided there was a financial gap of about 10 million. They had shown where the amount we spend yearly, exactly how we would finance everything. The last bit was the 10 million for the financing gap. And I remember 4 million was to come from St. George's University, or the meeting was to determine that. And that's how they closed. There are 1 or 2 other smaller donors. That's how they closed the gap. So I don't want the Minister of Health to come and do as if the planning wasn't there. Anybody who requires to see the step-by-step process, I don't know if the information has been moved or burnt in the ministry, but I certainly have my copies of those meetings. So I know they took place and they were there, right up to the last stage. But you see, if it went into play, it would be an NDC project. And we keep playing the partisan politics ahead of the needs of the country. That's what Caribbean politics is doing for us now, and that is why we have to change that whole approach, because we must do what is good. You see, health and education, they have to rise above what party people support and so on. We, the people, must keep these things on track. We come in and we remove the report, see, and decide we can stay where we are. This is painful for me, George. I remember when my father, I asked him one day, before he died, because he worked in health here for 42 years, and he was the chief medical officer, and I said, when did you first identify the need for a new hospital? He tells me in 1949. We are now at 2019 and we still don't have the hospital. Because every 10 years a politician comes in and decides, oh, you don't need this and you don't need that, and throws it out. We are in charge of our island and must see very clearly what the needs are. 1949. And you can see the whole cycle which I went through with him 10 years later. Every 10 years we raise it and throw it back out. No, we're still back into the same old tricks. And these are the things that keep back Caribbean people, because we should have been much further ahead than where we are. They saw the need at that time for location, for size, for everything else. And don't give me the statement that good hospital building is not going to ensure a good hospital. It is the first step to doing so, and further to that, in this same plan. IFC is a branch of the World Bank, okay? It's a funding. One of the funding wings of the World Bank. And in that process, they were going to manage the hospital for 18 to 20 years, 18 years, before they handed it over to Grenada, using Grenadians, but making sure that we maintain the standards and the facilities that we are occupying. The hospital was carded for the big main road in St. David's, just before you get to Wester Hall and Wester Hall Point. It is actually in Wester Hall, near to where the Cardi station was. They looked at it, they said, yes, good location, we could do this is what could happen, and so on. And then now, the worry about whether NDC will get in or NNP should maintain their status Because it has to be that. No logical, clear thinking person would look at that level of planning from a world body, in addition to the advice of the World Health Organization and PAHO, and turn around and decide you don't need a new hospital. I mean, that is foolhardiness. So here we are, the same levels of mismanagement taking place. I am not going to beat up on either the doctors or the nurses, because there are people there who are very capable, highly committed, etc. In any management system, if you don't manage people, those who are working hard will get fed up with those who don't even deserve the job because they're not qualified for it, all of whom are still being brought in. And it creates a hodgepodge of confusion. So I have no doubt, given the right management and the levels of interest, it's not about handing over a box of plasters and handing over these things and then doing as if this is the big thrust forward. We have lost our focus as a nation. There's no two ways about it. You focus on putting down a hospital there for the reasons that are given. It's not something that NDC created. It's not something we just followed through on the policy and the process. And it is a crying shame that at this point in time, we are still sitting here, driving around the island looking for donations to sponsor circumstances, living in circumstances we should never be subjected to. Grenada was the Mecca. Grenada was the place, before I was growing up and when I was growing up, where when you had complex medical cases, you sent it here. It was the seat of the Windward Island Federation. And therefore, we were used to excellently run services. I remember very clearly that if you were a Grenadian coming home to work, you had to go and work out in the out islands first, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, and so on, before you could be qualified enough to come here. I talk personally because that is how my father ended up going to St. Vincent. I just said to him, you got to go work your way up. That's the level of medical care. How we have arrived at this doorstep with all kinds of foolish statements. Like we have returned Grenadians. Thank God they came back. Thank God some of them are qualified in hospital management, in all manner of nursing and whatever. Instead of us welcoming them, we check in to see their NDC or NNP to decide whether we could use their skills. I mean, I have to get impatient with these things because we need to move well beyond that. It is holding back the country in a terrible way. And so gone are the days when we can pick people who can't do the job or can't manage. You can't put Imanis as well, much as they are willing, into a laboratory and to carry out, as a chemist myself, I cringed when I heard it, to carry out various experiments, true, under observation. But it's not a place for them, really. They have to learn, apprentice in a different way. Not a hospital lab where you're dealing with people's cancers and you're dealing with people's situations and circumstances. Is unacceptable. So it can't be run that way. It's not an unsurmountable problem at all, by no means. As a matter of fact, if I may say, my good friend and hallmate from UWI, because she lived on the hall with all of us, same floor, 2 doors up from me, is the director of PAHO. PAHO, WHO, has for the first time a Caribbean person, maybe not for the first time, in a seat. She's Dominican, and I have no doubt is very anxious to facilitate and help the needs that are in the Caribbean.
So there is
Dr.
hope there.
Carissa Etienne. So I know that help is available in very high places and very good advice. Apart from the many Grenadians we have in prominent positions in health, I can't accept the fact at all and will not accept. And it remains a lifelong ambition to see this hospital built, sorted out, and move forward so that we can have the sort of facilities that we need, you know? Poor people in this country really struggling.
To say the least.
Anyway.
All right. Let me get back here now to some comments.
Yes.
I hope in your convention I hope in your convention a new leader will emerge, one who will lead the party to the next general election and to speak out when wrong is the order of the day. And there's so many wrongs. Ian Roberts says, the information age is about releasing people's potential, which is the NBC's plan. The NNP position has been a substance economy, which focuses on command and control, which will die hard. We must embrace the information age by focusing on re-education and empowering educators. Okay?
Very good.
I think he's correct. Didn't mean NBC, meant NDC.
Very good and very true.
Fitzroy Adams says, I personally think the NDC is too laid back. There is a young politician in Carriacou I admire. For him, election is not over. His voice and his boots are on the ground on a daily basis, educating the people on things that are affecting the nation. Let me ask you this, Franka, because see, we only have about 15 minutes left, starting to run out of time. But I have to ask you this. Reorganization of the party, Franka. You know, there are people out there who are, you've heard the cries here this morning, people saying NDC is too laid back. They want to see some life. And can you tell us about reorganization plans of the party, if there are any?
Let me just briefly make a comment on the comment of Tevin in Carriacou. Lovely young man, full of energy, full of vigor. Absolutely, his boots are on the ground. I would love to ask the person walking, have you contributed in any way to helping him, or you think for the next 30 years he's going to walk the ground and not get tired? Get tired because others must come into it. That's the whole picture missing. You want a team of people constantly walking on the ground, but the people don't want to be part of, you want to be entertained. This is serious business we are talking. This is not about entertainment and seeing who could throw the most stones and blows and the public sitting back and enjoying it. That's not how America was changed. You know, and by the way, this country needs to stop measuring its boot. America is a wealthy country. We cannot afford. We can't afford a plate of food, let alone to be able to doing some of the things. And I'm going to comment. I haven't commented on two of the issues yet, which is the $250,000 in holiday pay for elite police officers. The headline, I'm reading it on the ground from the newspaper, and one or two others. But we'll come to that. Back to Tevin. And great, vigorous young man. I wonder how long it will take for him to keep making the sacrifice of low employment, walking door to door, and Grenadians listening and doing as they please after that. Get involved. Get involved. You either send him the resources to do so and hire people that can help him, which is what we all need. See, we need the funding because we need to be able to, what they're doing is sending people to tell people. Yeah, we have to walk door to door and then they sit and critique without becoming involved. Then you complain that the party is laid back. What part are you playing in it? Is the question. And until that understanding, and we must take the steps, which comes into the restructuring of the party in due course, we must take the steps to ensure that you understand your role in this. Because until we do, Caribbean people will continue to suffer the way they are. Bear me another minute. So Tevin is doing a great job. We get along extremely well. But we must bear in mind, he too is and won't sit there for another 10 years while he grows older and fit young man with his life before him without the kind of support and help. You know, I must pause here before we get into the question that you asked to talk about a very prominent Caribbean gentleman. His name is Lennox Honeychurch. I'm sure you have heard of him. If you haven't, he writes the history books. I tried to bring in one this morning, but I didn't have it with me, that our children use in schools. If you have a child, in secondary school, Form 1 to Form 5, the book they're using, or they were using under the book program, is that history book is written by him. He is a Dominican. He's an anthropologist. He's a Caribbean, of course, Caribbean man. And he attended Oxford University for his PhD. Now, I needn't bother to tell you what it means for you to reach, little boy from the Caribbean, to reach up in Oxford University as an anthropologist. That is the level of brilliance of the human. And also he put together, of course, history books, he's written a lot. So he talks a lot. And I happened to be working at the time with a government that hired him to speak to their people so that they could become empowered and understand Caribbean people better, and therefore are better able to serve. It's one of the agencies. You probably know it is Peace Corps in the United States government. When I heard this man for the first time, I took a seat at the front of the hall, and I haven't moved since every year he came in for training. But he gives you and explains to you why we are who we are. An amazing understanding of why, for example, Roman Catholicism caught on a lot more than other, and not the historical perspective either, the cultural perspective. He really is the most knowledgeable person. He happened to be visiting Grenada some time back. And in his time here, they asked him, I happened to be present again, they asked him, where does he think we will be in 100 years' time? And his response, he smiled and said, you're not going to like what I have to say. But since you asked, I will tell you. You will be exactly where you are today. Right where you are today. You would not have moved ahead one step because the steps to carry you ahead are not happening. You're still content. I mean, that is my interpretation, what I'm saying now, going on to say, of what he explained. He says the Caribbean keeps selecting people and putting them into positions that to move them forward, and they are neither qualified nor interested. The focus is on themselves. It is not on the people and getting where we are supposed to get. It has now caught up with us. So, for example, he says here in Grenada, you will see in 100 years' time, the big yachts will all come in to have themselves, to get their massages, to get their places, their yachts cleaned and so on. Nothing wrong with that at all. All these are good, legitimate employment ways. And you will come down with your bucket and mop and clean the deck and get everything clean. They get the massages in 2-3 days' time. When they've had their fill, they slip out again and they're able to take on life and continue. And you're back up the hill with the pails. But nothing wrong, it's job, it's work. But you wouldn't like your son or daughter to own one of those yachts one of these times? You wouldn't like to own the hotel, or, wouldn't it be nice if 1 or 2 Caribbean or Grenadian people were in that group? But you set your whole mentality up and you keep people who are trained and who understand how to win an election, but haven't a clue how to manage a ministry. But you see, winning the election gives me the power. So I'm able now to control the power over you, and this is what goes on. So you know where you'll be in 100 years' time? Right where you are. I listened well to the gentleman's explanation, as I will always listen to him when he comes to talk. But we need to take those words that they speak for themselves, dead seriously. And I will say, just in support of Tevin's journey, which I certainly look at all the time with his vigor and his whatever else, but I wonder how much longer you think he's going to walk that beat for another 30 years while we catch on to what we need to do. We need to pull ourselves up by that bootstrap and get the job done by becoming involved in the process, the changes within the NDC. This is a ticklish one in the sense that you don't want to step onto the turf of whoever and whatever happens at the end of the year, another 3-4 months, depending on who decides to run for leadership and who doesn't. That's another issue. But there's certainly changes that need to take place. And first and foremost, we need to be far more team conscious and be together in our approach. We need to have a change because this present system, all people want to do is to sit and listen to other people beat up, and it makes no difference at the end of the time. So that's something for us to think through very carefully. What in fact we need to do to that is different, without becoming a criminal party that sanctions all manner of corruption and so on, without being along that line, how can we best bring that message effectively to people so that they see they're part of it? In other words, people development is the big thrust as far as I'm concerned. People must become empowered, must become involved, must see their role in development. If you don't see your role in the developmental process, it makes little sense. And I am a firm believer that until we reach the stage where, as I put it, the pinch, you're feeling the pinch of the lack of development, you will not change your attitude. But we must bring them to that point where they feel the pinch of it. There are other, this is an excellent party. By the way, you have an excellent team of people, but I think they are well ahead of their time. I think they'll understand what we're talking about 20 years down the line. Hopefully we can make them see the sense before that.
Somebody named Raphael John is saying here, Franka, people cannot do political work on their own. If so, there would be chaos. There must be leadership.
Agreed.
There must be guidance.
Yes.
Don't continue to blame people for their lack of involvement.
Yes.
Leadership is key. Nice listening to you, very passionate and sincere. Good luck moving forward.
Yes.
Franka, hold on a sec now, because like I said, running out of time.
Yes.
But you have enunciated this morning that you do see solutions to a lot of the problems that we have in this country. All is not lost.
Not at all.
But like this person, Raphael, is saying here, we do need leadership.
You do.
Franka,
there's no two ways about it.
Franka, I've been waiting for the last almost an hour and a half to drop this one on you. Franka, do you have any aspirations of political leadership of the National Democratic Congress?
I will certainly do what is required of me, and I am a committed person. I will certainly serve in whatever capacity I am invited to serve in. I agree with the young man. Leadership is absolutely key, but you must be prepared to do your part as well. So it's a hand in hand, as I mentioned before. I did not come into politics and the party the regular way, in that I didn't have an ambition to lead the country forward. What I had tremendous ambition about is to have a developed country. I cannot and still can't for the life of me understand why 100,000 people should be defeated by all these issues. They are solvable, they're easy enough, they're towns in big countries that are the size of our country. We are fortunate. We are blessed in so many ways. We got all the natural ingredients. We got the brain, we got the people, we have the peace, we have the country. It is what is governing, and the gentleman is quite correct, the leadership. But leadership too is a tremendous commitment. It's a 24/7 job. You have to be prepared to give 24/7 and to respond to the needs and nurture, strengthen, empower, focus people on, keep the focus. And keep people focused on what needs to be done, and not lateral thrusts, but forward thrusts. It's a lot to ask of a person if you intend to lead. If you got in there for power brokering and for lining your pockets and those of your friends, then that's how you'll be breaking down the doors to get there. But it's a big commitment, and it is a commitment that I can undertake if I was asked to do so. So I am in the process of evaluating the degree to which I would become involved in what is happening in my beloved
How
country.
long will we have to wait to hear the results of that evaluation? I need to hear that.
Well, don't you have a convention coming up at the end of the NDC has a convention. It's there in the paper this week.
November?
November. So the point I'm making is that it's not something to take lightly, and it is something that one has to evaluate all angles of, as I'm sure people who have done this before have said.
Well, I'm sure you've been doing a lot of evaluating, but what I need to hear is that you are willing, if given the opportunity, you will lead this party.
If the opportunity, yes, is given, absolutely. The question is, we have to wait and see if the opportunity is given. You know, and see whether in fact, how we're going to go forward with this and the plans for the development. And you see, one cannot be ahead of one's people either in terms of thinking. You may be way behind in certain areas. But if your vision is clear that the way forward depends upon people and their commitment and how they are going to respond. Let me give you a little example again. And I hope we have enough time because I do need 5 minutes more. Are we going to have that?
You can have your 5
5 minutes, good.
Send the check in the mail. I'm only kidding.
I hear you.
Go ahead.
But if you're going to be the kind of people that sit, maybe you haven't reached that point yet. I sat in the yard in the Esplanade about a month or two ago. And I looked, as I say, at Grenadians going up. You know, there's a step, George, from the tunnel up to the hospital. And that step bothers me no end because it's a long trek up to the hospital. Steps all the way. And I saw about 20 to 30 people going up. Their little bundles under their arm, no doubt a little food supplies for their relatives in the hospital, a change of clothes, whatever, in the broiling hot sun at 12 o'clock in the day, up the long staircase. And then there were about 25 coming down, one behind the other. And I said to myself, look at the struggle going on here. What you think wrong with us as a people? You think in this day and age, we couldn't have a proper means of entering that hospital without having to walk the 44 steps. I remember when I was a child at school, from time to time my father couldn't come for us and would say, come down to the Esplanade and walk up the step to the hospital and wait there for me until I'm finished and then we will go home. Here we are 55 years later and we're still struggling up the step. And I look at the entrance to other hospitals in the region. Think of Queen Elizabeth in Barbados. The Bahamas is the most classic one because I also went to see what it looked like about 6 months ago. Big highway in to the accident and emergency area, well delineated areas. And I'm told the people there have said categorically to their government, fix the entrance to the hospital because when my sick relatives are coming and my drug addict son I'm bringing in, granted he's on drugs, but I'm paying my taxes. I need to be able to access the hospital. Here we are, climbing up the step one at a time. And these are the things you look at and examine and see if you think I could make an impact. You think they're going to listen and understand the drum that is required here. I often remember Morris Bishop talking about pulling up the bootstraps. The bootstraps want to pull up. We have reached a new level of on-the-groundism. I don't think you're going to understand. The islands are well ahead of us. Well ahead of us. British Virgin Islands kicking us up in CXC every year. Math and English are up at 84 and 85%. We are down at 24 to 36%. We got to pull up the boots. So all of this is in the leadership concept and whether in fact how we're going to move forward and whether it can be heard. I cannot let this morning's comment go without talking about a little bit before we close off about the the headline on the newspaper and the corruption and mismanagement involved in the cell phone gate. I want to ask you one question. You think any gentleman who spent 70,000 in phone calls in 3 months, who worked at Huggins or Hubbard's, would still be in their job? You think they would still be there? You think they would be said, well, all right, let's make a little arrangement to excuse him out and so on? We cannot afford to operate in this fashion. It shouldn't have happened. The gentleman is not working with government. and certainly the systems in place. And it's nobody, the buck stops where the buck stops. And that sort of situation cannot be condoned, but I could tell you what my feelings are. He's never going to pay that back, because that's been there to encourage NNP supporters. All manner of everything is where it's being used, and he's not going to feel that at all. But the issue is, where's the justice, and where's the system, and where's the management system that would allow that? I look with interest at the $250,000 in holiday pay. That's the the caption for elite, and I have no doubt the elite police officers are certainly worth it, because as we know, salaries are very low here, and we know what all is happening. But I begin to feel our Prime Minister is too expensive for us. He needed a cabinet secretary other than the one he had. Mine, the one he had been serving all along. Okay, but we needed $6 million. It put us in a debt of $6 million. We needed a police chief. Another, so we ended up with 2 police chiefs and 2 Camp 6. Well, I mean, we look like we have too expensive a manager for us to cope with, because the private, what does the headline say? The headline say $250,000 in holiday pay. He's too expensive for us. Next thing we'll hear is that they need other things. You see, all of that needs to be put into perspective, and as has emerged in the papers, you know, you can't, things have to be in perspective. There's too much corruption going on. Look at even foreign affairs and the friendship club that's taking place. You have competent ambassadors like Decima Williams overseas, seasoned ambassadors, who should be really the dean of the diplomatic corps. Heck of an experienced person. You have others in the EU. We had an ambassador there who looked after, did an excellent job, because I know the scholarships he used to get from very fancy Italian institutions and so on for the raid. And then you get to hear that the Prime Minister's press secretary is now the designate ambassador for the UK. You hear that in the United Nations, you see friends of the Prime Minister's children. It's all about a friendship club that is not good enough. I'm not saying these people are not bright. You hear one of the minister's children is the ambassador to China. I mean, we are a nation, a joke, a real joke. We leave capable and qualified people because they may not lean in the direction of. Ambassadors are there, they're most important part of our structure. They're there to hold up our country outside, to guard us, to listen for us, to negotiate for us. You don't want to be sending out people who are now learning negotiation skills, and when you in fact you have serious, experienced people sitting back doing nothing. These are the things that make us think the country is being mismanaged. You're not looking for the talent and the ability, right. You're looking to say thanks to your friends, to get support. So look at all of that, sir.
All right, Franka,
yes.
Listen, I hope that this is going to be just the first in a series of visits, especially since you've stayed away from me for so long. It just broke my heart. But we have to leave. However,
yes.
I cannot get out of here without mentioning a comment here from Ernesto a few minutes ago.
Yes.
Hold on a sec. Ernesto said last Thursday, your party staged a demonstration,
yes,
which had a very low turnout.
Good.
People didn't know what was going on. And he said it was poor PR. Not all Grenadians are internet savvy, internet inclined, he says here. Need more community outreach meetings in open spaces. And the leadership is too laid back. Franka, judging by what you heard here this morning, I think we all sense that, by and large, the public would like to see you leading the party. But Franka, if even that happened, the question has to be asked, will that make a difference? And the reason why I bring that up, Franka, in the run-up to the last election, we heard of some, I thought the electoral process was an independent process. We heard about movement of a computer from the electoral office down to the gardens.
Yes.
Which raised a lot of eyebrows in this country. I don't have to tell you about all the comments on the street from people who saw things happening that they felt should not be, where people were being put to vote where they shouldn't be, and so on and so forth. Forget about the Grenadian people. What about these observer missions who come to Grenada, the OAS, the CARICOM, Franka? They raise concerns. As a result, there are a lot of people in this country who have still not accepted the outcome of the last election. Okay? How can the NDC win the next election when that cloud is hanging? You know, the OAS and CARICOM said, look, 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 look. And it wasn't the first time they'd done that. They said, look, these matters need to be addressed. But they haven't been, Franka. What confidence then can the Grenadian people have in the outcome of any elections in this place?
It's a heck of a question, George, because the world has reached that stage where in actual fact we have interference even at the highest levels. We see what happened in the US. And so we're aware of the impact technology has had and the importance of keeping up with it. It's a very serious question. It needs analyzing, clear analyzing, and it needs the conclusions to be brought out clearly as to what all took place and so on. But again, the power is in the hands of the people, because if you don't...
Is it? Is it?
Well, it's being taken out, but you see, if it's taken out, you need to be in a position to raise that as well and to say, this is what we suspect is happening as we're seeing.
But they did, Franka.
Yeah. Well, in the US, you mean?
No, people were complaining here prior to the elections about what they saw happening.
Yes. And but you see, again, it wasn't a
organized,
unified, organized approach to it, and met with a lot of passivity. I think a lot of our passiveness stems from our history, but we can't sit and hide behind history for things. We have to move forward, you know. For example, when the gentleman said, when I quoted to him, same taxi man, I said to him, we told you the server was being moved into the Prime Minister's office out of the electoral office. And I said to him, what do you think the server was moved for? Because he liked the color of the server, or that he likes equipment inside of his room? There's a reason behind it. And we have to conclude, people are not mad. If you move something, that means to say there's good reason behind it. We spoke of Judy Benoit and her, just watching and observing Judy Benoit, that whole episode with her. We saw the deputy removed a very reasonable woman, a person who was a Mrs. Holder, who was a vice principal of a school, lady with high integrity and so on. She was out. We watched this thing happen every step along the way. We protested. I still have the picture of the 30 or 40 NDCs holding their placards, including myself. I was wearing a crutch, having damaged my leg at the time. So I have the picture, sir, and I could show you at home. We kept telling you all along, look at it's happening. Certain people were sent overseas for training. The courses that they were doing were very interesting. In fact, one was from my previous ministry where I was, and I'm aware of his skills and talents. And we sort of warned every step and watched it happen. Right up to 2-3 weeks before the election, one of the persons within my constituency came and reported to me that a room had been rented and a computer equipment had been moved in. It was very interesting to see who was coming and going into that room and what was happening. And what did I think? We mentioned another constituency had a similar experience right near to the polling station. And a lot of irregularities this way, which we made known to the public. Several days after election, I got a call 2 days after from Trinidad, from a good friend down there. There are a lot of Grenadians living in Trinidad. And the person said to me, you heard the news, the 7 o'clock news? Caribbean Analytica was supposed to have made an intervention in Grenada and affected the outcome of the election, and they admitted that Grenada was the last place they had a hand in. So, and then she explained that an interview was held with the Prime Minister immediately, and he indicated it was the NDC that had gotten Caribbean Analytica to become involved. And the NDC spokesman had said, well, we lost the election. So unless it is that you can't do your job, then the person who won the election is the person who actually enjoyed the interference. All of that is what was reported back. She said to me, oh my goodness, well, by midday you're going to hear all the stories coming out about it and what was happening and so on. Not a word in Grenada, not a word. I listened for 2-3 days, nobody said anything. The shoo-shoo behind hand continued, and that's where it stayed. Now, we have brilliant people in ICT here, and I want to call on them right now to say it's not about riding around in a comfortable car, because you have been able to keep shut and people are aware of what has happened but can't prove it. There is a moral responsibility as a developing country to say what you see and how you see it. And I'm using that as an example to say this is how we boil back down and see nothing, and whether your election will be free and fair or it won't be will be dependent upon the people and how they respond. And indeed, if I may say, whether people like myself get involved and others, or just say they're not ready yet and move away, would also depend on the response of the people. Not here to be beaten upon.
Franka?
I don't know if that expresses, you know.
Yeah. Franka, pray for us, girl. Pray for us.
We better say plenty prayers, indeed.
Thank you very much, my friend. And again, I'm going to ask you to please keep in touch with us.
Yes.
I know you have a lot more to share.
Yes.
But
I'm going to be away, George, before they decide that I have come and spoken to you and disappeared. I am out of Ireland for 2 to 3 months. Okay?
Franka,
personal matters. So
I have already put you on notice. I don't care where you go. Because I'm sure that even on Pluto, there is internet. Okay?
True,
and I'm sure you have a cell phone.
That is true.
We're going to keep in touch with you wherever you are.
Yes.
Please.
Yes, I hear you.
You have lifted the hopes of the Grenadian people today. And Franka, there's a lot more that you have to say. I'm aware of. But unfortunately, we do have some time constraints.
Absolutely.
So thank you, my friend.
Thank you so much for the privilege of saying this, because I really felt I needed to say it before I moved on, you know?
Okay.
From a Grenadian perspective.
My dear friends, on that note, this is where we're going to pull the curtain down on today's edition of Sundays with George Grant. I mentioned to you earlier on this morning, taking the day off tomorrow. Please, let me get some sleep, please. Not going to be with you for Good Day tomorrow. Good Day, Grenada tomorrow. Parting word. I'm not going to quote anything from the Holy, well, I'm not going to read from the Holy Scriptures this morning, but, or maybe I should. Maybe I should. Yeah. Hold on a sec. Just let me pull this up, because I already pulled out a scripture from Galatians chapter 6, 7 and 8. Just let me get this little prompter in my hands here. And my dear friends, here is what it, oops, I lost it. Never give up. Never give up. Hold on a sec. I have a copy of it somewhere else. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. Okay?
Amen.
A man reaps what he sows. Whoever sows to please their flesh, from the flesh will reap destruction. Whoever sows to please the Spirit, from the Spirit will reap eternal life. Galatians chapter 6, verses 7 and 8. Folks, I'm hungry. Thank you so much, Franka, Bernardine. It was such a blessing to see you this morning. I do appreciate it. Folks, we'll see you on Tuesday.